Hello, everybody. We will be getting started in just a minute. I am waiting for my amazing co-host for the evening, Mr. Brandon Quidham. He will be here in just a second. Hope you all are having a great night. It's been a fun week so far. A lot going on in the Bitcoin world, so excited to field some questions for you. So many people just joined real quick, so I imagine you're all members of Cafe Bitcoin. So thank you for joining that, and hope you all are enjoying the rooms that we've been putting on. We plan to put on a new room, at least one every day, probably more than one. As like many of you, we are all addicted to Clubhouse, so I don't foresee this ending anytime soon. I see some of you have already started raising your hands. If you have a question you want to get answered, please do raise your hand and we will try to get to everybody. I hope it does it in order. I don't think it does, unfortunately. And if you have any friends who are new to Bitcoin or old to Bitcoin or anybody, feel free to ping them into the room using the plus sign at the bottom right. We will probably get started in about 2 minutes, if I had to guess. I'm going to ping Brandon right now, and then we will get going. Perhaps I will put on a little music in the meantime while we wait. Please note, everyone, that we are recording this and live streaming it to Twitter and to our YouTube channel, or Swan Bitcoin's YouTube channel. That is so people who are on an iPhone can benefit from this as well. And so anyone who gets their questions answered or anyone who's listening can go back and see what was asked and listen to it again in case you missed anything. In the meantime, if anyone is interested, if you're actually very new to Bitcoin, you can click on my profile. There are a number of very helpful links there about how to get started. And I would urge you all to check those out. Come on now, Brandon Quidham, where are you, buddy? We've got a fun night of questions to answer. See if I can find this music video. There it is. In the meantime, while I wait for Brandon, I'm going to play one of my favorite Bitcoin music videos. And you all get to hear the wonderful audio from that. It should be fun. This was actually made by Naomi Brockwell, who has some really fantastic Bitcoin music videos from back in the day. And I will play this until Brandon is ready to join us. Well, looks like Brandon is here. If you were enjoying the wonderful sounds of Bitcoin Girl, the music video, you can find that on YouTube, and you can blame Brandon for finally showing up and ruining the song. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing wonderful, but I feel really bad that I ruined that song. It sounded great.
It is it's a pretty great song. That's all right. People can go find it. Looks like we've got a lot of questions here. Brandon, I don't know if you wanted to do any sort of introduction or introduce yourself before we get going. I did a sort of impromptu intro for everyone while we were waiting.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Minneapolis originally, started my career in enterprise software for Oracle. and then did a little entrepreneurial romp around the world, kind of digital nomading for 4 or 5 years with my fiance at the time, now wife. And then I stumbled into Bitcoin full time in early 2018, stumbled around the industry, sort of shifted career towards Bitcoin, joined Swan early 2020 and going hard there. I run communications and sort of like a behind the scenes marketing type stuff. Also super into surfing, mycology, psychedelics, learning in general, and obviously Bitcoin. Yeah, that's probably good enough.
Love it. I actually don't think I introduced myself. I just talked over everybody while I was here. I am Brecky. I am the creative director over at Swan Bitcoin as well. Let's see, about me. Not too much about me. My background is in international relations and filmmaking. I was a film producer in a past life, and then I realized that making movies is not very much fun. I prefer to watch movies, and then I got bit by the Bitcoin bug and realized what an important thing this is, and decided to dedicate my life to it. Now I get to put some of those film skills to use here in the marketing side of Bitcoin and the education side of Bitcoin. So I think we should just get down to questions. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Everyone's been waiting way too long. I'm sorry, I don't know who raised your hand first, so let's start at the bottom of the list, and we got a few, so we'll work our way back up. Anna Smith, welcome to the stage, should you choose to accept it. What is your Bitcoin question, and how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks, both of you guys, for having this room. I'm pretty new, so I apologize if I think you can hear me, right?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I actually have a question from one of my friends who can't be in the room tonight. He's wondering, his name's Steven. He's wondering, how do we invest in blockchain? Is this on topic? I don't even know. I'm so new. I'm just learning everything.
You're doing great, Anna. Is the question specific? Sorry.
Oh, Brandon, you back? You there?
Sorry, I just ate some cacao and I was choking on the cacao bean. True story. Is your question specifically about blockchain as in like an overarching term for this industry, or do you actually mean Bitcoin, or
do you not know what you mean, and that's okay too?
Totally.
Well, blockchain is the technology, right, for Bitcoin?
Yes. There's like a handful of technologies that blur together and they sort of connect and they form a delicate balance of incentives. Blockchain sort of is the poster child. However, it's totally reasonable to come into the space and using that term. Bitcoiners kind of get triggered by it. But to answer your question, the right way from our perspective to invest in, quote, blockchain is to buy Bitcoin, the asset itself, buying BTC.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there was a phase in sort of the history of Bitcoin where a lot of people who are not necessarily in the Bitcoin space were touting the benefits of blockchain and not Bitcoin and saying, we don't need Bitcoin. What we really need is blockchain. The problem with that is that, a blockchain is essentially just and if we've already answered your question, that's cool. We're just going to kind of go off on tangents a little bit if we think something's worth, discussing a little bit. But
yeah, for sure.
A blockchain is essentially just a really slow database. And it doesn't necessarily make sense to use a blockchain in all scenarios. And frankly, for most Bitcoin folks, we tend to believe that, the only situation that makes sense to use a blockchain is for money. And, and Bitcoin is that money. So investing in the blockchain space is rather a broad thing to talk about because there are, people out there with quote unquote opportunities to invest in the blockchain space. But just from our experience, what we would say is that that's probably a fool's errand, and that you should spend some time really learning about Bitcoin and put your money there. Brandon, anything else to add?
No, well said, Becky. I think that's the too long didn't read. Any other questions or follow-ups there, Anna?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks. I will definitely pass that info along to him. I do have a question because I just checked out both your guys' profiles since I didn't really know you. Brandon, did you write the Bitcoin is the mycelium of money?
I sure did. Did you read it?
Oh my God, yes. I just read it the other day and I devoured it while I was at work one night. I'm a night shifter, so I had some downtime. And yeah, very well written. Thank you for that.
That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. And if anybody's wondering what he's talking about, I wrote a roughly 10,000 word essay on looking at Bitcoin through the lens of mycology, which is the study of fungi. And so sort of looking at this decentralized organism, which is the main form that fungi take. And they're this incredibly fascinating, understudied part of ecology on our planet. And there's a tremendous amount of overlaps with Bitcoin. If that sounds weird to you, that's normal. But I promise, if you just start reading it a little bit, I think you'll pick it up.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. It's great.
And the link's in my profile or my personal website, brandonquidham.com.
Heck yeah. All right. Thank you, Anna. We appreciate it. We're going to move you back down. And next up on the list, who do we got? They really need to figure out a way to do this to allow people to raise hands in an order. So I'm going to choose at random, and I apologize. We're just going to try to get to everybody. All right, Ryan, you are up next. Should you choose to accept this mission? What's going on, Ryan?
What's going on, Ryan? I guess following on with her, where instead of how to invest in blockchains, I guess for beginners who have a basic concept of it, what would you say is the best next step for trying to get involved in Bitcoin, and what sort of platform to use?
Do you own any today?
I do not.
Okay. Would you say that you, in your mind, are decided that you want to start buying some, or is that still undecided?
No, definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, we're slightly biased. We both work for a company called Swan. However, I personally, and I think Brecky would agree, that Swan is probably the best place to buy Bitcoin if you're in the US. And so if you go to swanbitcoin.com/Brecky and you sign up, you'll get $10 worth of Bitcoin for free.
Yeah, you don't have to use my link. It's all right. You can do slash Satoshi is fine. But yeah, I mean, look, the best way to get started, I think, is, granted, we're biased. We work for Swan, and Swan is the only on-ramp I use these days. There are some other great ones in the US. I would urge you at the very least to stick to the ones that are Bitcoin only. There's fewer distractions. The fees are usually better. But check out Swan, see if you like it, and definitely, invest in your education first. I don't know how far down the Bitcoin rabbit hole you are, but first and foremost, I mean, it depends. Some people say, learn first and then buy right when you're ready. Some people will say no, buy some, that way it'll motivate you to learn more about it. You can go either way, but kind of up to you.
Yeah, I would definitely say buy some first, as long as you're comfortable with it, but don't buy a lot, right? Like if it's $20 or $100 or whatever is a little bit to you, start with that and then just start consuming. And just from a general strategy for beginners, a lot of people are going to ask questions like, is now a good time? Do I buy today or later? It's going to go up or down. And no one knows to begin with. And number two, it's really hard to even try to predict that. And so most people would say it's pointless to try to time things. And so we're both very strong advocates of a strategy called dollar cost averaging, which just essentially means you buy a fixed amount every week or every month. For example, you buy $50 worth of Bitcoin every week, and you just automatically do that, just like your Netflix subscription, or the same way someone would invest in their 401k. And what that does is it allows you to smooth out the volatility. So as the price goes up or down, you don't care. You just find a little bit each week, and over time you accumulate a nice position. And historically, that strategy has worked out very well for Bitcoin because, yes, it's volatile, but historically it's been going up over time. And so there's really no 3-year period where if you bought every week for three years straight, you would always be in the positive. And so I think that's the right strategy for both beginners and people who are in the space for a long time. And so that's what I would recommend.
One other thing I'd add is that, and granted, this comes with time and understanding of Bitcoin, but Brandon and I and pretty much everyone at Swan and a lot of Bitcoiners, view Bitcoin as a savings technology. It's a way for us to preserve the wealth that we earn, to preserve the fruits of our labor against, the recklessness of the state in terms of money printing and, the inflation that's coming. And so what we do, and what I do personally, is I say to myself, I'm going to set aside, a certain percentage of my monthly income and put it into Bitcoin. Like it's like, contributing to an IRA or whatever, or what have you, that's how I view it. It's not how everyone views it, but, I'm definitely an advocate of looking at Bitcoin in that way.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Cheers, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Where are you climbing, by the way, Ryan?
Oh, I live in Hawaii.
Dude.
So yeah, just climb, surf, and then mess around with some tech stuff.
My man.
Just got into this, and yeah, it seemed like a good place to ask a question. Thanks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, do you free solo and fall in the ocean in that picture, or does it just look like that?
No, it just looks like that. There's pads just beneath it, but
okay.
you can get over the water on some other spots on the islands.
Dope. Thanks for coming up, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Brandon, let's do something a little interesting with this. Everyone who's coming up to ask a question, how about, don't reveal any personal information, like, anything crazy, but tell us something fun about you. Are you a climber? What do you like to do in your spare time? A weird fact. Let's keep it fun. All right. Who's next?
I'm in support of that.
Wait, let me mod you, Brandon. Sorry. Make a moderator. There we go. That way you can help with questions. All right. Who had a question?
I'm going to be drunk on power now.
All right, let's see. I'm going to get this name right. Mrugakshi? Tell me if I got that right. 1 second. Welcome to the stage.
Right. That was perfect. That was very impressive.
Awesome. Love it.
Something fun. Skydiving. Usually people do it for an adrenaline rush, I suppose. But when I went skydiving, it seemed very peaceful. Like I would want to go again and again and again, simply so I can jump out of the airplane and feel at peace falling into the earth. And yeah.
I think that's because your brain chemistry is preparing you to die, and so it fills you full of bliss. True story. Also very cool.
Oh, well, I'm alive. So, I don't know. Wouldn't it be adrenaline, though? That is, like, that's the brain chemistry. Anyway, we can talk about that later. This is actually a question that was asked to me by somebody else. I was explaining to them about Bitcoin and decentralization, and I couldn't answer it. So here's the question. Can the Bitcoin blockchain be impacted by malware?
By malware? Interesting. I think the short answer of that is no. The long answer is that if you were to download a faulty copy of whatever software you're running to run your own node, then an individual could probably be affected. But the network itself, it would be very, very difficult for some sort of, bug to get added into Bitcoin after the fact. Brandon, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there, Becky. And that's pretty much what I was going to say, which is, yeah, any individual is always vulnerable. However, the way that the network itself upgrades, every so often, Bitcoin Core releases a new version of the software. And Bitcoin's very conservative. It takes a long time. A lot of people look at the code. And then let's say tomorrow a new release comes out. What you'll find is that some people will upgrade to the new software right away. But most people, it might take 6 months or 3 months or something like that. And that's actually a good thing. And so at any given time, let's say there's 100,000 nodes around the world, there might be 5 or 10 different versions of Bitcoin Core running simultaneously. And so let's say the new software had a bug, it would only affect a small percentage of the total network. And part of the design philosophy in Bitcoin is that all new upgrades to the protocol must be backwards compatible. And so an easy way to think about why that's important is, what if I owned a lot of Bitcoin and then I got into a coma, and for 10 years I couldn't wake up and I couldn't do anything, and during that time Bitcoin updated the software so many different times that I'm on this really old version. And then one day I wake up and I plug in my node in, and wow, look, my node still works, my Bitcoin's still there, everything's cool. And every single other cryptocurrency project continually makes the software not backwards compatible. And so from that standpoint, Bitcoin's very resilient, and it's also, in a sense, future-proof.
Right on. Yeah, that does make sense. I was looking into the Bitcoin code base on GitHub the other day, and in order to find the answer to this, and I suppose the only way that I could quote unquote spread to all of the nodes that are running the Bitcoin blockchain is this: if somehow malware was transmitted through a transaction of some sort, but that just seems impossible. Like that just couldn't happen even through the memo, and so I couldn't find much on it. But I mean, is that if not through an upgrade through the code base, could it travel through the transaction?
It's a really interesting question. It almost reminds me of that news story where someone had sent a virus to that DNA company by like encoding the virus in the DNA itself. But I think Bitcoin transactions are very, very specific. I'm not a coder, so might be above my pay grade here. I don't see how it could be possible either. Brandon?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think you nailed it there, Becky, which is that Bitcoin is so simple that the transaction types must follow consensus rules. Otherwise, either the node won't relay them or the miners won't include it in the block. And so unless there's some like really sneaky malware thing that I'm not capable of understanding, which is entirely possible, I don't see how it would happen. And if it was possible, it's been running for 13 years or whatever, and it hasn't happened yet. And so that leads me to believe it's unlikely to occur in the future.
Hey, Mrugakshia, if you're interested in really digging deep into this, shoot one of us a DM on Twitter. We could probably link you with some core devs who might be able to actually answer this question, like with 100%, certainty. But yeah, I don't think this is an issue given like the size of the honeypot and the fact that I haven't heard anyone bring this up before.
Right on. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks so much.
For sure.
Thanks for coming up.
All right. Oh. Alrighty, folks. Let's see who is next. Wait 1 second. Sorry, getting used to these hosting tools here. All right. We're going to go with Carl Allen. Welcome to the show, Carl. Let us know something interesting about yourself, and then let us know your Bitcoin question.
Interesting about myself. Maybe Brandon would appreciate this. I live in Oregon, and maybe this isn't totally about myself, but as of today, you can own small amounts of psychedelics and not go to jail for it.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, right, just became the law today. So it's pretty exciting. You could actually own up to 12 grams of psilocybin and just get a ticket for it if you get caught. So that's exciting.
That's very exciting.
Anyway, so my Bitcoin question is about UTXOs and if there's a way to optimize them. Now, I do DCA through Swan, and I don't know if it makes sense to do it whenever I get to, I think you guys recommend like $300 worth, or if I say 0.02 or whatever, because I know isn't going to change. Like if the value of Bitcoin goes up, if it doubles, then that UTXO is also worth more. And the reason I ask is, even though I kind of know a little bit about UTXOs from Peter McCormick's, just did a podcast about these recently, but I still kind of messed it up. I have using Casa, and I wanted to open a BlockFi account. So I transferred $100 or $105 from my multi-sig to my single sig. And then I sent $102 because I wanted to leave some in there to open up the BlockFi account. And I'm like, I feel like I just kind of messed up all my UTXOs by doing that. So just trying to get some clarification on how to optimize these.
I am not good at UTXO management, full disclosure. I would love if someone, is anyone in the audience, or if Becky, maybe you can take this one. If not, if anyone's in the audience who has a great answer, I would love to hear it too.
No, I mean, no, UTXO management is not my thing. I mean, I tend not to move my Bitcoin too often, so it's not really an issue. I do know how to consolidate it, but I'm trying to understand your question a little bit.
I think it's also about, like, if I'm transferring it off of Swan or off of Prime Trust to my own wallet, how often does it make sense to do that? Because I know if I do it, I wouldn't do it every day, because then I'd have a ton of small UTXOs that would cost me a fortune in the future, possibly. So I'm just trying to see if there was
Interesting. Yeah.
Best way to do that, or best timing to do that.
It's kind of up to you. And again, it does depend on some, you mentioned like the price of Bitcoin going up. So that, those UTXOs will become more valuable. Sure. But I like to do it in just manageable chunks that are somewhat meaningful, that aren't too big. Maybe it'll go up. At the end of the day, also, if you're using a wallet like Wasabi, for example, a wallet where you have control over your UTXOs, it wouldn't be terribly expensive to consolidate a bunch of them in one transaction. If I could be wrong, but I don't think it would be. But I
would choose $1,000. Somewhere between 500 and 1,000. That's what I personally would do before I'd withdraw.
Okay, makes sense.
But that's totally personal preference. Like, you don't want to pull out $10 UTXOs, and you probably wouldn't want to wait till 10,000 just in case, right?
Right. Okay. One last thing I'll just mention, if you haven't, so the soundtrack to Hamilton is great for Bitcoiners. So I watched Hamilton before I got into Bitcoin. I loved it. And I was just listening to the soundtrack again today. And I was like, oh my God, this totally applies to Bitcoin. So highly recommend it to anybody.
Love it. I think that Highway to Hell by AC/DC is the soundtrack to Fiat. And sometimes I put that on.
Right.
Or, yeah, anyway.
Maybe TNT.
Awesome, Carl. Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks.
All right, we got a bunch of hands raised. I'm trying to remember who had one raised earlier. We're going to go with Nick. Nick, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight? Tell us something interesting about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Something interesting. I was once, I was once in a training match with Conor McGregor.
Oh, that is interesting.
And yeah, that didn't happen.
Tell about it.
Think of anything. No, yeah, that didn't happen at all. I've been my entire life.
All right, let's wait real quick. Let's for anyone who's in the queue with their hands raised, you have to tell us something interesting about yourself, but it does not have to be true.
No, I guess here, this is pretty interesting. Is on my mother's side, my grandfather, his family, actually owned the. I think it was either his dad or his grandfather actually owned the land that the Chrysler Building in Manhattan that sits on today, but he lost it in some type of game or bet or something years and years and years ago. So that's that was unfortunate. I could have bought a lot more Bitcoin.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah. So I had I guess kind of a couple questions. They should be answered pretty quickly. And I might have missed this, but when he was the last question that was asked about moving your Bitcoin, was he saying moving it from a digital wallet to like a hardware wallet? Is that?
He was talking about moving it from Swan Bitcoin, like from an exchange to a personal wallet.
To a personal wallet, okay. And so when the UTXO, that's the little like transaction charge that gets applied when you move it from wallet to wallet. Is that correct?
Here, we should probably explain this.
Yeah.
So UTXO stands for unspent transaction output. And all that really means is that's what Bitcoins are, is they're unspent transaction outputs. And so when we say how big of a UTXO do you want to move, that just means how much Bitcoin do you want to move at a time. And so typically on an exchange, the Bitcoins are custodial, right? So they're managed by the exchange. But once you take custody, you're essentially taking a small piece. You just think like a little sliver of gold, and you brought it under your own control. And then next time you want to spend that sliver of gold, you will need to pay a transaction fee to the Bitcoin miners. And so let's say you pulled $1 off an exchange. You'd have such a small little tiny sliver that the transaction would actually cost more than that piece of Bitcoin. And so you'll want to pull off decently large chunks. That's why I said between 500 and 1,000, I think, is a reasonable size. Some people say bigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So then why wouldn't you want to just pull out 10,000 if you had it in there, because that chunk would be bigger.
You totally could. It's more
Okay.
like, and some people will do smaller as well. Another way to think about this is to kind of look at wallets, for example. So on your phone, or depending on what wallet you're using, you might have a wallet on your phone where it doesn't actually give you what's called coin control. You'll log in, it'll say you have 0.25 Bitcoin, and that's all it'll say. Some more simpler wallets will do that. But behind the scenes in that wallet, it could be, 0.05, 0.1, and another 0.1. And it's adding them up and showing you all the UTXOs added together. But in reality, it's 3 separate chunks of Bitcoin. So what we were talking about earlier was UTXO consolidation, which is where, let's say you have control over those 3 UTXOs. You're able to do a type of transaction, call it a self-transfer. And in that spend, that self-transfer, you are combining those 3 outputs into one single output, which means that spending them later would be, would cost less, if that makes sense.
Got it. And then, so how do you consolidate it? Does it just happen automatically, or is it something you need to manually do?
It's something that basically you would be doing a Bitcoin transaction. Instead of sending it to someone else, you'd send it to yourself, but you'd send 3 of these UTXOs to the same address, and it would.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got okay. And then my next question is, I understand the basic premise, right? You hold on to it, don't have weak hands and get past the ebbs and flows. It's going to happen. But I guess, do you guys have any recommendations on like training systems or I guess literature that you can read on how to properly trade? And I'm not even talking about like day trading, but on how to recognize trends. And you always hear people say, this is a good time to take profits. And I understand what that means conceptually. Like if something's up, you want to take money out of it. But I also know there's strategy to that as well. So do you all have any recommendations on training systems or good people to follow that are in the day trading or trading a Bitcoin space that have something where you can learn and apply?
Yeah, generally speaking, trading Bitcoin's a bad idea. And the folks who want to sell you a trading system, they're trying to make money off of you. If they were a great trader, they would make money off the market instead of trying to sell courses to noobs.
Right.
And it's really sad because there's a lot of those folks, and new people come into the space and they more or less get taken advantage of. And so the right way to approach Bitcoin is to think very long term, like minimum years, even better decades. And just think of it as your savings account in cyberspace. Pick a percentage of your income, your surplus at the end of the month, and put a percentage of your investable income into Bitcoin each month, and just put, essentially you're burying it in the backyard, under the assumption that it'll be worth a lot more in the future. And taking profits, yeah, sure. If you need a lifestyle upgrade or you're 100% in Bitcoin and you want to shave a little off somewhere near what you think might be the top, sure, no problem. But I wouldn't try to scalp little 10%, 20%, even 100% gains on Bitcoin. And simultaneously, to back this up with data, over the course of a year, all the gains on average come in about 7 to 10 days. And so if you're trading and you're out of your position for one of those 7 to 10 days, you might lose, a huge amount of gains for that whole year. And so tons of traders, they think they're doing a good job, and they made money, but they would have made more money if they would have just held.
So and that makes total sense, because why would they need to sell you something if they're making all this money trading? I guess the other thing that I've researched is I've heard people say, just get it off of an exchange as fairly, don't have all your coins in an exchange. Get it onto a cold storage hardware wallet. Do you all agree with that, or what are your thoughts there?
So this is what I tell people. I think I love self-custody, and I encourage people to do it when they're ready. But the key there is when they're ready, because being your own bank, taking self-custody, it comes with risk, and it's a responsibility. But there's a reward to that as well. So what I would urge you to do is we actually have an article on our website. It's just swanbitcoin.com/wallets. And it'll take you through kind of, what the different types of wallets are, our recommendations for when we think, self-custody is a good idea. And it'll walk you through it from, start to finish. So I would definitely check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
For sure, Nick. Thanks for coming up. And welcome Corey Clipston to the stage. Maybe he'll answer a question or two. Nick, we're going to send you back down to the audience and bring somebody else back up. And remember, we want something interesting about you in addition to your Bitcoin question. All right, who is up? We've got Karen Vasquez. Welcome. One second, sorry. Welcome to the show, Karen. How are you doing tonight?
I am good, and you guys?
Yeah, doing well. Monday night, getting to talk about our favorite thing in the world. So.
Yep. Well, is Corey going first, or?
I think. No. You go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess something interesting about me. My most useless skill is that I can drink a whole bottle of vodka and not have a hangover the next day. So it's like a useless thing.
That's pretty useful, in my opinion.
Really? I don't know why. I tried it multiple times and I just don't get a hangover. Yeah. Anyways, but so my Bitcoin question, it's more like around trading and taxes. So like I'm located in the United States, so I'm not sure how like taxes works with crypto profit. And I was wondering if you guys have any insight into that.
Yeah, so the IRS treats in the US Bitcoin as property. And so you'd be taxed on any profits that you may take from Bitcoin. So anytime you sell, that would be considered a potential taxable event. And if you profited when you sell, that percentage of your profit, that amount is taxed. And there are two ways that they tax it. If you held that Bitcoin for less than 1 year, you would be paying taxes at your marginal income rate tax. So think like around 30%. If you held Bitcoin for longer than a year, you'd be taxed at long-term capital gains, which is around 15%. And so definitely incentivizes you to hold longer term. And that also makes sense with Bitcoin as an asset.
Oh, okay. So in that case, so what if you have a crypto wallet where you buy your coins and then you transfer it to a trading platform and then you make profit out of it when the market is good? So that still applies the same rule?
Yeah. So basically anytime you convert one cryptocurrency to another or a cryptocurrency to a fiat currency like the dollar or the pound or anything like that, in the US, that's considered a taxable event. And a lot of people who are new to the space don't realize this until they've done a lot of trading without realizing that they're incurring tax obligations there. But yes, short answer is yes. If you're moving crypto from one wallet to another, you're sending Bitcoin to yourself or sending it to a friend, that's not taxable. But if you're using Bitcoin to buy something or you're trading Bitcoin, then that is taxable, yes.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I was curious about that. Thank you so much.
And if anybody's in here is into Mars or robotics, check out Karen. Her bio looks super badass. And you should definitely connect with her. I'm a follower on Twitter right now.
Okay, I'll follow you back. Thank you.
That's rad. Thank you, Karen. All right. Let's see who is next. We've got some more questions. I'm going to bring up Aman from the stage. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing tonight?
Good. I like the questions that Rick and I've got the lady that just was on before about the taxes. It was great. So the UTOs. So I'm gonna sort of talk as an example for myself. Such a newbie, very very new to crypto, just being here. So I went on Coinbase, and then I purchased very small amounts, like at 3 different times. Now, would you call those 3 different UTOs?
That's an interesting question, actually. So just to correct it, it's UTXOs. But
and what do they stand for? Unspent transactions.
Unspent transaction outputs. Almost had it. So the thing is, when you're buying Bitcoin on Coinbase, for example, because they're centralized, you don't really have any way of knowing how many UTXOs there are, and you won't really know until you withdraw that Bitcoin to a wallet that you control. At Coinbase, you can kind of think of it all being in one pot all together with everyone's Bitcoin, and they keep a ledger of who owns what. So that's kind of the short answer of that.
Okay, so that's sort of comforting to know, because that's how I was seeing it, because I had never heard of the UTXOs. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Unspent transaction outputs. So as it's accumulated, yes, my understanding is when it gets to about 500 or 1,000, it's best to move it out to a wallet.
Well, I would say that whenever it reaches an amount that's a meaningful amount to you, that you would be upset if you lost it. Depending on what the fees are on the Bitcoin network, you're not going to want to move, a few dollars worth of Bitcoin. But if $100,
it's just like an ATM, each time you
exactly.
take a transaction, you don't want to take 50 cents or $1 out if you know you're going to spend $50 in the next month, just to, you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean,
so I get that bit, and then so being on these rooms. So the two cards that I've been hearing about is Cold Card and Ledger. And then I've been hearing about Cash App versus Coinbase. And now I've just recently seen you guys, I've heard about Swan. So if I'm on Coinbase, is it safe to be there, or do I need to go to something like Cash App? What I like about it is that how you can transfer it back to your checking account, or put it, you can either spend money from your checking account, or you can cash it out, and I think it goes back into your checking account.
If you're talking about if you were to sell Bitcoin and then you could transfer the cash back, yes. But most exchanges will handle that. You were talking, some of the different things you mentioned were slightly different. So Cold Card is actually a hardware wallet. And that's something that you would use when you were transferring Bitcoin off of an exchange into your own personal custody. That's a little bit more advanced, especially the Cold Card versus a Ledger, for example.
Is it a Ledger? How do you spell that?
Yeah, Ledger is Ledger. I think they spell it just the same as a regular ledger.
So if I wanted to Google it, what would I have to write? What
would
I have to say?
Well, what I would urge you actually to do is we mentioned an article earlier. There's no pressure to use Swan, but we just put out educational materials. So it's swanbitcoin.com/wallets. And it should have all the info for Ledger and Trezor and Cold Card and all sorts of different wallets on there. And it'll give you a real kind of overview of what they are and how they work. So that's swanbitcoin.com/wallets. Would highly recommend that.
And advice for beginners is I just hearing the questions that you're asking, and you said you started with a few small buys. I would not worry about cold storage or self-custody. They more or less mean the same thing right now. I would focus on just accumulating more Bitcoin and learning, because self-custody, while it's the right approach long-term, and that should be your goal, it also comes with a lot of responsibility.
And that's what's keeping me from hesitating, because I keep feeling, gosh, do I want another responsibility? Because I'm handling that kind of stuff.
Yeah, don't do that yet, to be honest. I would just keep accumulating and keep learning. And when you feel motivated, then I would start down that path.
Yeah, okay. Because I keep hearing some people, I would not keep it at an exchange, and and I'm like,
so
yeah, I mean, that's good advice, and it's also like the blanket advice, right? So it doesn't always apply. And most people say that because there is a history of exchanges getting hacked. And so if you don't own your Bitcoin yourself, you don't have custody, and the exchange gets hacked, you might not ever get your Bitcoin back, for an example. And so ultimately you want to own it, but I think the odds of Coinbase getting hacked are extremely low. And
Yeah, so
I say that
how
I'm
long
not a
have
fan,
these?
and
How long
I'll still support it. Sorry, go ahead.
How long has Coinbase and Cash App and Swanbase or whatever? How long have these things been around?
So Coinbase has been around, if I remember, since 2013. It had to have been 2013. Cash App probably came out a few years later. Swan is relatively new. We launched about a year ago, but part of the reason why we came about is we saw a lot of what was going on in the space and we wanted to kind of improve on it. We tend to disagree with a lot of the things that Coinbase does, for example. It's definitely important to look at like the pedigree of the places that you're buying from. But that being said, as much as I have personal beef with Coinbase, I will say that, if you're not ready for self-custody, I do think it's relatively safe. Now, as Brandon mentioned, the Bitcoin space and frankly the dollar, the fiat money space also has a history of breaches of trust. And part of the ethos of Bitcoin, and something that we urge people to learn about eventually, is why there is this push for getting your coins off of an exchange, and why we are wary of quote unquote trusted third parties. The whole point of Bitcoin, or one of the points of Bitcoin, was that it came about because of all these breaches of trust in the monetary system. And so if you're trusting others to hold your Bitcoin, that can be okay if it makes sense. If you're less trustworthy than they are, okay. But at the end of the day, we do urge people to go down this rabbit hole and learn about these things, and understand why we're so passionate about it. And I think it's been a while since we mentioned it, but if you Aman, or anyone's listening, we give away a book called Inventing Bitcoin. It's probably one of my favorite books on Bitcoin. I give it to my friends and family. You can get through it in probably 2 to 3 hours, and you don't have to know how to code. And it'll walk you through both how Bitcoin works and some of these things that we're talking about, like UTXOs, and why Bitcoin's important. So I would highly recommend you to grab it. If you go to my profile, there should be a link there. It's just swanbitcoin.com/free book. And we have it in audiobook and ebook, and it's a fantastic resource.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do appreciate that. So would it, one more question. So if one starts off with Coinbase and wants to switch, start buying through Swan or Cash App, is that recommended, or it should just stick to one? What do you call Coinbase? What is that called?
An exchange, called an exchange.
Exchange. So just stick to one exchange.
There are a couple things here to consider, actually. One is that I don't think it's the best idea to be giving your personal financial information over to so many different institutions. I wouldn't urge someone to sign up for every single exchange out there, because then you're set. You have to submit your ID every single time and all that. So it's not good to spread that out far and wide. But that being said, I'm signed up for how many now? Like 2 exchanges, I think. If you want to try a different one out, that's okay. But if one's working for you, then I would stick with it. Are you in the UK by any chance, or no?
No. So I'm from, actually, got something interesting. I'm actually from London. Mm-hmm. Born in London. Origins are Indian. I came backpacking in 1990, and I was at a youth hostel, and a few days before the flight, I just sort of went down and said, "You got a job for a while," because I didn't want to go back right away. And then I started carrying on traveling through California and ended up living out here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I'm in Oregon now, which wasn't like my thinking that this is where I'm going to be, but life had its curveballs sent out. So this is where I am, raising 2 kids.
Yep. So, well, if anyone here is from the UK, Swan is not in the UK, so I can't recommend them there, unfortunately. But for anyone in the audience, I would recommend you check out CoinFloor. They're kind of very similar to what Swan Bitcoin does. And then here in the US, Aman, and for anyone else, yep, Swan is here, Cash App is here, Coinbase is here. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I love the fact that you are dealing with these newbies here and asking these questions. I think I got thrown off of a conversation place somewhere because I was asking questions and I did get what they said, but it said, the club looked like it was a beginner's.
Definitely. It takes a while to get through some of these concepts in Bitcoin. And there's nothing wrong with that. So keep asking questions, keep learning, and definitely check out those resources. Thanks, Aman. All right. We have some hands raised. Who is up next? Let's go with Kyle. Kyle, welcome to the show. Tell us something interesting about yourself and then ask us your question.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. I think I saw Brecky in an earlier room, so nice to see you again. And Brandon, definitely. I enjoyed your introduction. Just being another fellow person in tech, I'm in tech sales. It's cool to see that you've made this transition. And being someone that is brand new to this world and actually bought some Bitcoin yesterday for the first time. It's just exciting to see other people that are similar, have a similar background, and hopefully this process of learning isn't too daunting. A little fun fact about myself, I've actually knocked out Conor McGregor in a training match before. Just kidding. Fun fact, started, maybe this is just the year of trying new things, but started snowboarding for the first time this year. So that's my fun fact. Question. Well, first off, you guys have done such a good job of just working through so many of the basics here. A lot of my questions have been answered. I think the way that I kind of want to frame the question is just kind of talking you through my process so far, just very quickly. I took a very simple approach. I'm trying to educate myself in parallel with buying Bitcoin. I have enough conviction that it's a good idea, and it's if I put my money in here now, it's going to be worth a lot more down the road, and I have no problem holding on to it and not selling. I think in the meantime, I'm planning to build my conviction with education and just build that confidence. And if I develop some different tactics and so forth along the way that help me, whether it be keeping my Bitcoin secure or things like that, all the better. But really all I've done so far, so I downloaded Coinbase, just saw that as such a regular name. I figured can't go wrong using that app. And then I also already have Robinhood. So my first Bitcoin transactions were through those two apps. The reason why I used two was because I already had Robinhood set up for some stocks. And so today was a great day on the market, been running up a couple of stocks. So I sold some and then bought Bitcoin. Now I'm just kind of like, I'm learning some of the, I understand the concept of wallets and everything. What I'm trying to do is really think about like, what are the fundamentals as I'm first getting started? You guys have answered the question around like how frequently to buy Bitcoin. I like that strategy. I've heard that strategy. I plan to implement that. It seems like some of the fundamentals are the wallet. I've heard a lot about education, but it's almost like if we were to be going camping tomorrow, I could say, okay, if we're going camping, you need a sleeping bag, and here's why you need a sleeping bag. You need to make sure that you bring a pot and a pan so that you can cook food over the fire. You need to bring firewood. What are like the essentials for us beginners that are just getting started for Bitcoin? What do you guys say?
So, Kyle, I need to thank you and apologize because you are tonight's example of a Robinhood trader. And I don't know if you know this, but when you buy Bitcoin on Robinhood, you don't actually own that Bitcoin. And for some people that's okay, but basically when you buy Bitcoin on Robinhood, you can't actually withdraw it. It's a closed system. So maybe that's okay, but just wanted to let you know let you know in case you didn't know, because a lot of people make that mistake and think that they can later withdraw that Bitcoin, and they end up buying more and more on Robinhood, and then they realize that if they want to actually take self-custody, they have to sell it and then buy it again somewhere else. So
what do you have to do to untangle yourself from that?
Well, it depends. Like if you're all in on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is your kind of unit of account, and you want to self-custody it, the only real way to do that is to sell it and then buy it somewhere else that will let you withdraw it. If at some point you do plan to take profits in dollars, maybe it's not the end of the world to keep a small amount on Robinhood. But I would urge you to get another exchange that lets you withdraw if you plan on buying significant amounts of Bitcoin in the future.
So are you saying if I wanted to sell it today, I would not be able to sell it for cash?
Oh, no, sorry. You can sell it for cash, but I'm saying if you wanted to transfer it to a wallet that you control, you can't do that. It's basically stuck on Robinhood. The only options are to hold it or sell it, or buy more of their sort of paper IOUs. If that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, Kyle, Brandon here. Nice to connect with another tech sales rep. Thanks for coming up. Very cool. I think your head's on straight. You're asking good questions. It sounds like you dabble with stocks on Robinhood, and so I would just keep your Bitcoin there. It sounds like you have a portfolio. You're trading in some capacity, and so if it's convenient, I would just keep doing that if I was you. And then I would use another exchange. Sounds like you already set up a Coinbase, and I would set up an automatic recurring purchase plan there of whatever makes sense for you per week. And then that's pretty much all you need to worry about today, is get that auto thing going. And then I think education is the next thing, like figure out what the hell you just bought and why. And like you said, build your conviction, because Bitcoin is volatile. It is emotional. And humans are notoriously bad at trading. Like our psychology works against us. And so it's important to have conviction in what this thing is. Because if it is what we think it is, it's going to be worth a lot more in the future. And there's tons of stories of people who didn't really know what they own, who sold it or bought something with it or whatever, because they didn't properly value it, and they regret that in the future. And so building conviction is important. And then your ultimate goal is self-custody, which is what Brecky was getting to with Robinhood. And that's one thing that makes Bitcoin unique, is that you can actually physically own it yourself. Not physically, but you control it rather than trusting a custodian. And so don't stress out about that because you are new, but just know in the back of your mind that's your goal. And for some people, it's a dollar amount where they start to go that route. Other people, they're tinkerers and they're curious, or they think it's cool and they want to do it right away. But just know it comes with a lot of responsibility. And so don't do it until you're ready.
Kyle, I'd also add, if you're looking for kind of, you mentioned like a checklist, some things to kind of put on your list for the future. If you want to like level up as a Bitcoiner, whatever that means. As Brandon was saying, self-custody is important. Learning about hardware wallets, and figuring out a self-custody solution that works for you. One other thing I'll add that, it's definitely a more advanced thing, but running your own Bitcoin node is something that I can't, stress enough as being something that it's just really cool to do. Part of Bitcoin, when you take self-custody, if you are using a hardware wallet, for example, or a wallet on your phone, most of the time those wallets are checking the blockchain, checking someone else's copy of the blockchain. So if you download a phone wallet and you don't input, details for your own node, it is cross-referencing someone else's copy of the Bitcoin ledger, right? Now, when you run your own Bitcoin node, what you are doing is essentially maintaining your own copy of the Bitcoin ledger. So the ultimate form of self-custody, in my opinion, and the opinion of many Bitcoiners, is to run your own node and use that to actually verify that the Bitcoin you think you have, you do actually have. And that's more advanced, and for most people, it's not necessary in the beginning. But if you're interested, and if you're a tinkerer, like it can be a lot of fun setting up your own node. And there's some great guides online as well. Feel free to DM us if you're interested in that sort of thing, and we can share resources. And then one last thing about Bitcoin nodes, sorry, that I'll add is that you're actually helping to decentralize Bitcoin when you do that. If you want to help Bitcoin in a way, running your own node is a great way to contribute to the security of the network.
Very cool. Thank you for that. And then just quick follow-up question around the going back to the Robinhood thing. Would you guys say like maybe the best thing to do just to squash the problem early is to sell it when there hasn't been a ton of movement in the last 24 hours and just get it set up elsewhere? Or I'm also thinking like it's really not that difficult just to have this one little portion of Bitcoin sitting on Robinhood.
Yeah, I mean,
and I can always go back to it later.
It depends, right? Because like if the more it goes up, like the higher you might have a larger tax liability there. But if you're trading anyway, I'm assuming that you have a tax guy or you're dealing with your taxes and you're paying your taxes, so it's not like the end of the world. But I don't know. It's kind of up to you. I don't really have a good answer.
Yeah, I would say it depends on magnitude. Like if it's $100, who cares? If it's $100,000 and it hasn't moved price-wise yet, aka very little or no capital gains, then I would definitely move it off Robinhood. But somewhere in the middle there, that's kind of on you to make that gut call. And I would add one other point with sort of like the beginner starter pack. I would find some Bitcoin friends. And you're doing that right now. Connect with people that you meet in these rooms. Bitcoin Twitter is great. Also, it looks like based on your picture, you live in Seattle. Is that true, Kyle?
That is true.
Awesome. There's a really good Bitcoin meetup there. If you DM me on Twitter, I'll connect you with the meetup host in Seattle. His name's Brian Lockhart. He's fantastic. And he's been hosting meetups there for a long time. And anyone in the audience, I would encourage you to look up your local Bitcoin meetup. Most of the major cities have them, and I think it's a very enriching experience. Speaking from personal experience, what I've noticed is that Bitcoin's quite interesting, and if you do become obsessed with it, which I have and many other people have, you're going to find yourself wanting to talk about it a lot. And your normal friends, your spouse, your family, they're going to get super annoyed if you try to talk to them about it. And so find other people who are falling down the rabbit hole to bounce ideas off, to quell your worries, to ask questions.
Brandon, my friend, it's 2021. All right, Bitcoin is cool now. It's cool. All right, this isn't the old days. And what are we doing here? This is the Bitcoin meetup. Come on. No,
you're right.
No, I it's a shame that probably physical meetups are not necessarily happening these days. But they're doing them virtually, and it's great to connect with people locally as well. I would echo Brandon 100%.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much. And yeah, absolutely looking to connect with other people at all different stages.
Love it. Thanks for coming up, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. All right, everybody, let's do a quick reset of the room. Welcome. This is Bitcoin for Beginners, a Q&A, part of Cafe Bitcoin. We are doing these Bitcoin Q&A sessions every Monday. So if you are not part of Cafe Bitcoin, click on that little Cafe Bitcoin icon at the very top left, click apply. Everybody gets into the club, but you can tell your friends and family that you're special if you'd like. We're going to be doing rooms every day as well, not just beginner rooms. And I would also urge you, if you are a beginner to Bitcoin, it is super, super helpful to get into a room and listen to conversations that are above your skill level, because you'll learn a lot more than you think you will. So definitely don't be shy and jump in, sit there and listen to some of the experts, because a lot of them are here on Clubhouse, and it's pretty amazing. Now back to questions. Let's see who we have. Sorry, one second. Chad McDonald, welcome to the show. Tell us something interesting about yourself. It could be a real fact or a fake fact. Just make it interesting. And then let us know your Bitcoin question. Good to see you again, Chad.
Hey guys. Just want to come up here and support you guys, whatever I can as a moderator. A fun fact.
I have is over the last 5 years, I've been going in and out of Japan and met a very special lady about at that time, and we are now happily married since since December 5th. So that's the fun little fact.
Nice. Congrats.
I'm also tough.
Do you have a question for us tonight?
I was just gonna step up here to help support you guys any way I can with questions and moderation, like I've been doing on the other chats. But love what you guys are doing. If you want to send me back to the audience, totally cool.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're keeping the room pretty tight tonight, but we'll definitely have some more open rooms going forward. Appreciate it.
Dude, good to see you, Chad. I'm just listening in for the most part. This is the Brecky and Brandon show, but it was awesome seeing you take the reins.
Thank you,
in the free-flowing room earlier. But yeah, we'll have lots more opportunities for that. We're opening the Cafe Bitcoin daily room every day at 6:30 Eastern for the foreseeable future, weekdays. So look forward to seeing you all week.
I'd be happy to contribute if you and I are linked on Twitter. So we'll talk then. I'll let you guys keep the show rolling. Take care.
There we go. Thanks again for lending your name to Chad Saylor. We appreciate it.
Yeah, tomorrow morning we've already named our room for tomorrow in honor of the conference that Michael Saylor is throwing. Conference summit I think, for CEOs and other higher ups at big companies. It should be very interesting. So we're all pretty excited. All righty then. Let's see what we've got. Next question, Chris. Welcome to the show. Tell us something interesting about yourself and let us know your Bitcoin question. Well, Chris. All right. Looks like Chris has stepped away, so we will invite Arjun up. Arjun, how are you doing tonight? Hello. Welcome to Bitcoin for Beginners.
All right, that's an apt welcome because I'm definitely a noob.
No worries.
In the department. Well, I got to start off with something interesting, right?
Arjun, you got like 5 interesting things in your profile. Aspiring aspirer.
That one, I was the best man at my friend's wedding. Someone took 3 hours tying that. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, I lift weights a lot. I didn't put psychedelics in there because I thought this was like a professional app. I was like, all right.
Oh no, psychedelics are cool now, as long as you live on the West Coast. If you're on the East Coast.
I definitely don't. I live in the heart of Midwest. So
where do you live, Arjun? I'm in Minneapolis.
Chicago.
Nice, man.
So your neck had so much swole that you couldn't tie your bow tie around it.
I would like to believe that, but that's not it at all. We were skillfully challenged, I guess.
It's okay.
So I'm going to have a few noob questions for you guys. I know the whole Bitcoin craze really picked off last February when all this pandemic stuff was kind of taking off. So I told all my friends to get into it, but I was so lazy. I just kept telling everyone else to do it. I didn't do it myself. They all ended up making a lot of money thinking I was going with them. I definitely did not. So I just kind of sat here looking like a dummy. Now I started to get into it. So I want to know, first of all, what's the difference between, I'm looking here on Coinbase. What's the difference between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Wrap Bitcoin, and Bitcoin SV?
It's a hell of a question. So
is that too much?
No. It's a great question to kind of explain these things. And
I'll tell you first off, the only one worth owning is Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the reason why Swan was actually founded, it's a company where we all work, is because of this confusion that Coinbase profits off of. But basically, the thing to understand is that Bitcoin BTC is the original Bitcoin, and it's the only one that matters, as Phil said. But there's a lot of good reasons for that. It's not just we love this coin and it's dogma, blah blah blah. No, like some of the reasons are technical, some of the reasons are in terms of adoption, but basically Bitcoin, like the real Bitcoin, it has the majority of the hash rate in the world, which means the majority of the computer power that is out there securing cryptocurrencies. Not to mention, in terms of market cap, it is the highest market cap. There, we could go on and on, in terms of some of these reasons. Market cap, like the total market capitalization, the number of coins times the price, basically, the total value that is stored in the protocol, if that makes sense. So, wrapped. Brandon,
want me to try from another angle?
Yeah, try. There's too many. There's like so many of them to explain. I don't know where to start.
Yeah, so
I don't know. Hit 2 of them. That'll be fine.
No, we got you. Bitcoin's open source software, and what that means is that you can freely go and see the software, and that also means anyone can copy and paste the software and try to make their own version of Bitcoin. And over time, the community has had disagreements on the future of Bitcoin. Should we go in this direction or should we go in that direction? And usually the community decides amongst itself, and it just marches forward. But sometimes the community can't agree, and so the community fractures. And then there's 2 versions of Bitcoin. That's how you got Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin ABC, whatever the Bitcoin Gold, Silver,
There's a
Diamond.
wrapped Bitcoin that's like
It's
similar in price to the original Bitcoin.
Yep, yeah, we'll get to wrap Bitcoin, but first all these clones. And so they're essentially just clones of Bitcoin. And what we found in the market is that Bitcoin has like 99% of the value. So essentially all those forks or all those clones are more or less worthless. And nobody builds on them. Their security is also 1% of Bitcoins. There's no network effect. They're essentially not worth anyone's time. And so BTC is Bitcoin. That's the only one you need to worry about. And wrapped BTC is essentially one of a handful of different experiments where they're trying to put Bitcoin onto Ethereum's network in order to do various different Ethereum things. So that's why the wrapped BTC that you saw is roughly the same price, because it's essentially trying to tokenize Bitcoin just so you can do things with it on Ethereum. And I would say, it sounds like you're pretty new here. I would definitely not recommend wrapped BTC. That's more of a toy or something for advanced people. Instead, just stick with BTC, Bitcoin, accumulate weekly, and keep learning. That's what I would say.
I've got a metaphor for wrapped Bitcoin. Many Bitcoiners, and I can't speak for all of them, view what's called DeFi as kind of a casino, decentralized finance that's over on Ethereum, which is a different chain. Imagine you're going to a casino and you need chips to play in the casino. That's what wrapped Bitcoin is. You're turning in your Bitcoin and you're getting a different, like a fake version of Bitcoin to use at the casino.
Okay, like a token.
Yeah, exactly. So if Bitcoin is your goal, and we hope it is, no need to buy wrapped Bitcoin.
Okay. All right. I had another follow-up question. This will be an even, I guess, noober question.
No worries.
Like, how do I store it offline onto like a USB? Do I need special software for that, or what? How do I take it off from wherever it is in the internet?
So there are lots of different ways to do this. There are what are called hardware wallets. There are wallets on your phone that work for this. There's different pros and minuses to each of them. What I recommend though is an article that we have up on our website. It's just swanbitcoin.com/wallets, and it'll
I'm there right now.
Yep, and it'll walk you through kind of all the different types of wallets and our recommendations for when is a good time to do self-custody, that kind of thing.
Okay. Do you guys have an app, by the way, or is it just a website?
We are web-based only, but we'll have an app coming out, I think, in a month or 2, something like that. So.
This is not to play down the fact that you have a running website. I didn't mean
No worries.
I don't want to take it that way. But anyway.
No worries, man. And it does work on mobile. I instant buy on mobile quite frequently.
Oh, dope. So I think I kind of got your point earlier about why you guys prefer, obviously, your app or your hosting site versus Coinbase, because they have all these scattered versions. And I know you said something about UTXOs or something.
Yeah, so UTXOs, that's just what we call Bitcoin. Think of UTXOs as cash you would put in your pocket. So you don't have Bitcoin accounts. You just have UTXOs. So all it means is like, think of it as like the physical-ish Bitcoin that you move. So any amount of Bitcoin in a given time isn't going to be one Bitcoin. It's going to be like change. So parts of Bitcoin or multiple Bitcoin is called like the UTXO. So when you look into a wallet, you'll just see kind of like on a ledger or like an account statement, the amount of Bitcoin that you have. So like 0.001 Bitcoin, that itself is your UTXO that you're looking at. And then below that, you might see 0.005 Bitcoin. That's another UTXO. And this is to really kind of create obfuscation, or when someone's trying to like look at the Bitcoin blockchain, like on a block explorer. This just helps if you have like these separate little entities or amounts of Bitcoin or just like chunk change floating around there. It helps for privacy, because if everything goes to one account, then that would be easier to find.
Yeah, and as a beginner, you can just think of them as little slivers or little pieces of a Bitcoin. UTXO is a technical term, and everything Phil said is correct, but as a beginner, I know how crazy it sounds. Just think of their little pieces of Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah. And they stand for unspent transactions. So like little pieces of Bitcoin waiting to be spent. But don't spend, HODL, for now.
I gotcha. All right, well, that would be it, guys. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Thanks, Arjun. And if you want to keep learning, we give away a free book called Inventing Bitcoin, written by Jan Pritzker, who's also the CTO of Swan. And so we give it away for free at swanbitcoin.com/free book. And that's also in most of the people on stage's profiles as well.
Free book. All right. Tremendous. I'm there now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Arjun.
Appreciate it. All righty, folks. Let's see who's up next. We've got Letitia. Welcome to the stage. Tell us one interesting fact about yourself. It can be true or false. And let us know your Bitcoin question.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello, hello.
Oh, hang on. Good. Interesting fact. I walked into the wrong room, or maybe the correct room, and was offered a machine, a Bitcoin making machine, for about $5,000 about 4 years ago, and I turned it down because I didn't know what it was.
Excellent choice.
Probably a good idea.
Was that described as a
that's
Bitcoin
good.
miner by chance, or what did they tell you it was?
Yeah, it was a miner. Yeah.
Yep, you definitely made the right decision. And for any new people, everybody always thinks that, okay, I'm into Bitcoin, well, maybe I'll just get a miner, which is just a special computer, and plug it in, and then I'll just print out all this free money. However, that's not actually how it works. The Bitcoin mining layer of the network is extremely competitive. And so it's at this point, it's a industrial scale type operation, and which means you need a lot of money and you need to have an edge of some sort, primarily having cheap energy. So it's not really accessible for normal people. And even if it was, most miners, when they spent all that money to set up a mining operation, they would have been better off simply buying the underlying asset. And so for all the new people, just forget mining. You're never going to do it, and just simply buy Bitcoin.
Great. That's great advice. Thank you.
Any other follow-ups there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I came up here. I am very new. I have ordered your book, so my goal was to finish that this month, or one of them. And yeah, I mean, I was gifted an account about 3 weeks ago. So I've been in this platform for about 10 days now and found you guys straight away. So yeah, I've just been listening and really just wanted to say thank you. I've already got heaps of value out of listening to you already. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. And
Letitia, just want to make sure, when you say gifted an account, do you mean here on Clubhouse?
Yeah. No, not on Clubhouse.
On Swan?
You mean someone gave you some Bitcoin?
Yeah, so someone gave me some Bitcoin on an Edge account. So I'm researching a little bit about it, but
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
mean, if you've got any advice, yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure because we don't have anyone gifting accounts on Swan at the moment, so that's not a feature. I just wanted to make sure somebody wasn't, pulling something sneaky.
No, I mean, it's somebody that I've known for about 18 months, and we've been talking backwards and forwards, and so he just says, hey, I'm just going to open up an account for you and just put some in there for me, and just said, go and do your research. So here I am.
Do you trust this person?
Yeah, well, I mean, have you've obviously heard about it?
I have, yeah. It just sounds sort of strange. Yeah, I'm not trying to knock Edge, more just the setup sounds strange, and there's so many weird little scam type things going on, and so I just want to make sure that you're safe, essentially.
18 months sounds like he's more than a friend, if I'm guessing correctly.
Well, I mean, we haven't had too many conversations, but I mean, I've been in this circle for about 18 months. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess my skepticism is because you could just go download Edge Wallet. It's just an app on your phone, and you could do it yourself in like 20 minutes. And so it seems weird that someone would set it up for you, because then theoretically you have an account that he also has access to, and you start buying through this app. And then one day your money's gone because he also had access. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you like sharing a bank account.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to ask. That's what I wasn't sure on that either. No. Okay, so I'm wrong. He asked me. I set it up, and then
Then he just sent you some Bitcoin.
Then he transferred some Bitcoin over for me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's just being a homie.
Sorry. Yeah. He knows I'm interested, and I think he's been doing it for a long time. So I think he's just helping me out in a sense. Well, helping Bitcoin out.
Totally. Which country do you live?
I'm in New Zealand, so we don't really talk too much about it here because it's not really legalized here. So yet, but I mean, I when you were saying before to maybe hook up with some local people, there are groups here, so I have considered it, but I think you've just talked me into actually going now, so I might make that one of my goals in the next month or so.
Yeah,
you'll learn a lot. I'm just curious. You said it's not legalized there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Bitcoin's not illegal anywhere.
Yeah, okay. You can correct me. I was just meaning it's not really talked about.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not really talked about in New Zealand. You know, it is amongst certain circles, but I wouldn't bring it up to too many people. I mean, I know a few people that know about it, but the average person I wouldn't really talk to about it.
No worries.
That makes sense. And if you DM any of us, one of our coworkers is actually from New Zealand, but living in the US. And so I'm sure he has good advice on what type of exchange or anything to consider specific to New Zealand. So we'll just open that door if you're curious.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you. Yeah, so, that's great. I'm on the right path, and you guys seem to be really good and have lots of information. So thank you so much for letting me come up.
Cheers. Thank you, Letitia. I appreciate it. All righty, folks. On to the next one. We have some more hands raised. I apologize, folks, if I am not doing it in order. Hopefully they fix this. Ryan, you are up. Tell us quickly something interesting about yourself, and then let us know your Bitcoin question, and we will do our best to answer it. Ryan, there you are.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, first time talking on Clubhouse. I just got this a few days ago, and I just want to say that I think it's amazing. I think hardly any of us have really realized the full potential of what this app can do, especially for the Bitcoin community. So thank you guys very much for your time.
Definitely glad to have you.
I had actually a few questions pop into my head in another chat room, but I thought I would hop over here because maybe the audience was more appropriate. Just a few quick questions about wallet recovery. So I have a Trezor. If I lose this, I need another Trezor of the same model for my seed to work, correct? It doesn't work across different wallets?
That's not necessarily the case. I'm not an expert on this. I'm going to try to look it up real quick.
I can answer this one. Ryan,
go
do
for
you
it.
have your 12 or 24 word seed?
A 12.
Okay, so that 12 words, for anyone listening, if you have a hardware wallet, so that means you took your Bitcoin off an exchange and now you own it on this little hardware wallet, think like a little special USB device. And the question is, if I lose that little USB device, how do I get my Bitcoin back? And so when you set up the wallet in the beginning, you write down 12 or 24 words, and you can think of those words as your backup. And if anyone found those words, they theoretically could get your Bitcoin. And so you want to protect them, keep them safe. And so to answer your specific question, Ryan, Bitcoin uses what's called BIP39, which is just a type of software update to the protocol that lets many different types of wallets back up their Bitcoin with these seed phrases. And so theoretically, you could use pretty much any wallet that is a BIP39 standard, which is most of them. However, if I was you and I was in your situation, I would just buy the exact same one, because then you have an extremely high likelihood that everything goes smoothly. Where if you use a different wallet, there'll be slightly different software, and you might just be sort of a clunky process to reboot it. But you can rest, you can sleep easy knowing that you'll definitely be able to recover your Bitcoin as long as you have those 12 to 24 words. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great, because, then I got to thinking, maybe I need to keep a backup in case for some reason Trezor stops producing or something of that nature.
Oh, I see. I wouldn't stress about that, but whatever, they're like $50. And if that makes sense to you, it's totally reasonable. So I mean, I have like 15 of them, so I'm not the right person to ask, but I think you're on the right track.
So then could I just have one more follow-up question that's kind of about that as well? I have my seed phrase now. So let's say that I lose my Trezor, I order another one, and I recover the wallet with that seed phrase. Will that new wallet generate another seed phrase, or will I always use my original one even if I restore 5 wallets?
Let's remove that last part with regard to 5 wallets for a second. If you use that same seed phrase and boot up a new wallet with a new device, you'll still keep those same seed phrases. And then what was your question about if you had 5 wallets, meaning if you just repeated that process 5 separate times?
Well, no, yeah, I just meant like the seed phrase that I have, I'll use it forever. I won't just use it on my next recovery and then that's irrelevant and I have now a new generated set of seeds for the next time I recover.
Correct. You use that same 12 to 24 word seed. However, there might be a scenario where you have 2 different 12 to 24 word backups, because you might have a what's called a mobile wallet or a hot wallet on your phone, where you might have like $100 on your phone in Bitcoin, and that wallet would also have 12 to 24 words. But you'd want to treat that a little bit differently than you treat your hardware wallet, which you can think of as long-term storage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, essentially the seed phrase I have for my current account on my Trezor, I'll use that set of seed words forever.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so that also means, if you write it down on paper and your house burns down, that'd be really bad, right? So you'd want to have a backup of those words and put it somewhere else, a trusted place, which
absolutely.
Maybe you're already aware of.
I've already got the brain wallet down.
One thing to think about is brain wallets could be dangerous. God forbid, you're skateboarding and you hit your head and you lose your memories. What then? You don't want to be the guy who comes out of a coma, with no memory and can't access his Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But I would. There's lots of great what do you call them? Like seed plates or metal. What do you call them? Basically, like contraptions made of metal where you can either etch the seed on, or they have these little kind of tiles that are pre-punched with letters on them, things that are fire resistant, things that you could bury and will survive for 100 years, that kind of thing. If you DM one of us, I can definitely send you a great article that has tons of these options if you're interested. But I
think I've heard of like CypherSafe on Stefan Livera's
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly. So something like that.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's that just further clarifies kind of what I thought I knew, but wasn't sure. So thank you guys very much for your time.
For sure. Appreciate it, Ryan.
Cheers, man. Thanks for the question.
All right, folks. We're going to send Ryan back to the audience. Sorry, Ryan. We'll see you later. And on to the next one. Who do we got? Valerie. Valerie, come on up. Tell us something interesting about yourself and ask us your Bitcoin question.
I've been thinking about this. Tell me something interesting about myself, and I just think that's an awful question to ask people. So that's what I got for you.
We'll take it.
That's fair.
I really admire your honesty. That's awesome.
And thanks for this. It's really helpful. And I just actually signed up for a Swan account. And while we were talking, I saw that it was live. So I just made my first transaction while we were on this call. So I was actually kind of excited about that. I thought that was kind of a good omen. But I think for me, I'm just kind of transiting from a little bit of a, auditor. And we have, so we've gotten some coins over, I don't know, the last year or so. And we have them on Coinbase. And then, so as I've been doing a little more research and getting a little more into it, it seems like that's probably not a good site to use if we want to sort of start to move a little more of our, savings that we have that have been more invested in stocks and stuff. We want to start to move them over. So there's a couple of things. One is that I was talking today, two questions. So one is sort of where would you recommend that I do the bulk of our purchasing trading? Just if, and especially if we want to start to ramp up and do slightly bigger numbers, which I think is always a bit of a trick because the limits are so low on purchases, especially in the beginning. And then my second question is that I have an account. It's like an IRA account that I was looking to maybe put into I think it's an ETF. I don't know too much about it, and I was wondering if you guys knew something about that as well. So it's my two parts.
So to the second part real quick, you might be talking about GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is not quite an ETF,
Yes.
But
Okay,
is
that's right.
Something that a lot of people are considering. There is I believe there's a management fee. There are some drawbacks to it, but for some people it makes sense. Just to do that. I think most of us will probably urge you to just buy the underlying asset if you can. That being said, we're biased. We work at Swan, and we'd love to have your business, but we don't have limits. We accept wires of any amount, so you feel free to shoot a message to customer support, and we can definitely help you out there.
Okay, cool.
There's also something to consider too. I believe we have an article up on this, but you can buy Bitcoin as part of an IRA as well. I'm not an expert on that, but if that's interesting to you, then I can definitely share that information with you.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful because we have right now it's sort of like managed, but it's like a 401k that I can move into an IRA, and then I can do whatever I want to with that. So it just seemed like that might be a better move than keeping it stuck in the market, which just feels really dicey to me at this point.
Yeah, Valerie. So if you do, I assume the 401k you're talking about is a previous employer, which means now you're in control and you can transition a 401k into a Roth IRA. Is that the process you're talking?
Correct. That's exactly right.
Okay, so we just did this with my wife's former 401k, and what we did was the exact same thing you mentioned. And then you have two options. You can go into I forgot the exact name, but there's an IRA, a self-directed IRA through like Fidelity or something like that, where you can only buy whatever Fidelity offers. And that includes GBTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, again, sort of like an ETF. However, through a Fidelity or an E-Trade or something, you couldn't buy Bitcoin itself, BTC. And so if you wanted to buy the underlying asset instead of the ETF, there are services that help you do this. and there's a handful of them now. I want to say Key Keeper is one of the first ones and most common. And if you DM us, Key.
No, it's Key Keeper IRA. That's something else.
Key Keeper IRA.
All right. Apologies.
No worries. There's a handful of those, and if you DM us, we can give you a more long-form answer there. And we are working on an article for Swan, our blog, because a ton of people are asking.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll definitely DM you about both of those things, because Fidelity is actually the company that I would be moving it from, and they have a very limited they can only do that grayscale thing, and I do think the underlying asset is where we're headed on both sides, so that's really helpful. So I'll DM you guys, and thanks so much for the answers.
Perfect. And then to go back to your first question, more for the audience, a new Swan customer starts out with $1,000 per day instant buy limit, and that increases over time as your account develops some history. And any new Swan customer can wire up to $10 million. They almost always go through same day. And you can also set up an automatic recurring plan, which is what we recommend for most people, which is you buy a fixed amount every week, something like $50 a week or $1,000 a month or whatever you want to do. And you set up that plan. And so if Valerie, one thing to consider is, since you are set up with Swan, you will be buying the underlying asset there. And so if you wanted to keep it super simple with Fidelity and you wanted to put some of your desired Bitcoin position in GBTC there, that is an option.
Oh, great. Yeah, because, one of the things I find really tricky about the whole Bitcoin thing is just having to stay, this is embarrassing, but having to stay so organized about having all of the codes and the wallets. And, that piece to me is actually the most overwhelming. So anything I can do to streamline it is actually helpful to me. And the other, I guess I have a third part to this question, which is, is there a way that I can just migrate the Coinbase accounts that we have? I think we have maybe 2 or 3 of them at this point accidentally to be part of linked into this one thing. So I have one simple streamlined way that I'm dealing with this complicated asset.
Yeah, what I would actually recommend is, I totally understand. First of all, I understand the frustration. We're managing information as money, and humans, this is the first time we've ever had to guard information like this. And so it is tricky, and we'll get better, and tools will keep getting better. And the fact that it's still hard is an indication that we're early and that there's a ton of upside left in the asset. And so, you're brave, you're here early, you're going to benefit for it. And to answer your question, I would keep those different, your Coinbase account, your Swan, whatever. I would keep them separate until you feel ready to own your own private keys, which would be get a hardware wallet and take control yourself. That's what I would recommend.
Right, and I feel like I should probably cross that bridge sooner than later. I mean, is the point at which you start to own your own keys? Is that related to just comfort? I mean, this is also coming from a person that loses their regular wallet with some frequency. So is that sort of I feel comfortable to get that wallet now, or is it really connected to I actually have enough money invested in this that it's starting to be quite silly not to do that?
Yeah, it's mostly the latter. Whenever you're ready, and it's interesting with Bitcoin because what is currently $1,000 could overnight maybe be twice that, 10x that. So yeah, like Brandon was saying, this is the first time we're having to guard this information in cyberspace. And when it comes to custodying your own keys, I'm there are great market solutions right now, companies that are helping people with this. And just first off the head, I would recommend Casa. What they do is they help you with your custody, in that you keep you keep a key and they keep a key. So they're basically helping you, giving you this white glove treatment of custodying your Bitcoin. And they're just really easy to use as well. If anyone else will tell me out with this.
That sounds excellent, actually. I think having a little bit of outside help at this point, especially if we want to kind of go in a little, harder, feels like the kind of additional support that would make me feel a little less crazy.
Yeah, and it's cool. The way it works is like you and Casa are working together to protect your bank. So I think that's the best way to think of it. And again, they walk you through the entire process with a white glove treatment, and they're actually insanely affordable. It's kind of crazy how affordable they are, but that would be my advice if you're looking for somewhere to keep your hard-earned entire savings. I would go with Casa. So I believe they're at keys.casa.
Yeah, one other thing just to, oh, sorry.
No, that's cool. Go for it.
I was just going to say, with any of these services, though, whether Casa, there's another one called Unchained, which I use, I think is good as well. You are still going to be using a hardware wallet at the end of the day. So it is slightly more advanced, but it is somewhat safer, and if you're doing one of their higher tiered products, they will, hold your hand through the entire process, and it can definitely be helpful, but these days hardware wallets, have really gone down in price. And, I would urge you to, you can get one and just, try it out and play around with it, send $20 of Bitcoin to it, get used to how it works, and sort of the principles behind self-custody. Brandon, you had something to add? You're just tapping your...
I was just clapping because that's what I was going to say. You're on the right track.
Thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And, just getting your feet wet, getting used to it. Because, I love multi-sig, it's definitely reassuring to do, but, it too comes with responsibility also.
Can you just tell me what multi-sig is? So
Sure. So, with Bitcoin, you have what's called a public key and a private key. Basically, you can think of it as like an address and a password. The private key is what allows you to have control over your Bitcoin. With multi-sig, basically that private key is, you think of it basically reconfigured where there are a certain number of total keys instead of just one. So basically, instead of there just being one key, there could be 3 keys. And in order to move your Bitcoin, you need, let's say, 2 out of the 3 keys. Or it could be set up where you need, 3 out of 5 keys. And the cool thing about this is, and this is kind of off on a different tangent, but in a corporate environment, let's say, where you have a number of people who are members of an LLC, each person could have a key, and it could be required where all let's say all 3 out of 4 of the LLC members need to be using their key in order to access the Bitcoin. That's just one example, but in terms of what we're talking about for your situation, it could be where you maintain 2 different hardware wallets, basically 2 different keys, and you can use both of those to access your coins. But if you were to lose one of those keys, a company like Casa or Unchained holds the backup key. And there's different ways to kind of set this up, but that's just one example.
That makes sense. No, that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And what, so real quick, what some people will do, not what everyone does, but you might, I don't really love this solution because it kind of, now you're trusting a third party again, but like some people will put, one of these keys in a security deposit box. They'll keep the other one at their home in a safe. And then, Casa might have the third key, that kind of thing.
Got it. All right, cool. So I'm going to reach out to you guys on a couple of these things, but I really appreciate your information. It's super helpful.
Definitely happy to help. All righty, on to the next person. We've got more hands raised. I'm going to try to go to someone who raised it a bit earlier, if I remember correctly. Ash, you are up. Tell us something interesting about yourself and your Bitcoin question.
Hey guys, I fancy myself a rather boring person, so. But I guess an interesting fact is I once got high off of Willie Nelson's personal stash, so
That's pretty goddamn interesting.
That's pretty interesting. I'm not sure I ever totally came down, to be honest with you. No, so my question is actually meta. It's about this room. And I just was curious. Unfortunately, I have to jump, but I've just found this to be extremely helpful. So thank you very much. And I'm just curious. I see that it's being recorded. Is this going to be available for later listening? That was my question.
Yep, definitely. So you can go to it's just youtube.com/ is it? I missed 1 second. Let me double check what it is. youtube.com/Swan Signal. That's Swan Bitcoin's YouTube page. Or if you search Swan Bitcoin on YouTube, you'll be able to find it there. It's not available now, but once the stream is done and it processes, it'll be there. So you can go back and listen to all the questions and all that. And we're going to be doing this room every Monday. So, feel free to join us anytime. If you click on the little Cafe Bitcoin icon in the top left and apply for the club, everybody gets in. You'll get notifications whenever we start a room as well.
Dope, man. I really appreciate it. Super helpful. I look forward to being in more of these moving forward. Thank you very much.
For sure.
Ash, thanks for coming up, man.
All right. More questions.
Brecky, just so you know, I got to run. Obviously, you can keep this going. You got a panel full of studs up here.
No worries. We'll do our best. We'll probably run this room for another 45 minutes or so. We'll get as many questions answered as we can. All righty. On to the next one. Naomi, you've been waiting for a while. Naomi, welcome to the stage. Tell us something interesting and let us know your questions.
How's it going?
It's a night talking about Bitcoin. What could be better?
I know, right? It's a good night. I won't take up much of you guys' time. I've followed you, Brecky, Brandon, Brady, Corey, Camila. I followed especially Camila because she's a girl. I followed you.
Camilla is better than all of us. It's a known fact.
Honestly,
you guys are too sweet. Girl power, Naomi. Girl power.
Hi, woman power. This is financial advisor of 6 years at Northwestern Mutual, me talking. So I totally get it when you're in a room full of men. But anyway, I will keep this simple. I actually just left Coinbase and went to Coinbase Pro, and I have all my shit sitting there. And I just started with Swan. Excuse my language. Also, sorry for my
No worries.
But I just have a couple of questions. I'm going to keep it super simple. I'm just doing my daily investments, and I don't really know how it works. And I think that I'll learn as I'm with you guys. I messaged Brady on Twitter, and I'm sure he'll get back because he's the head of education. So the really basic questions I'm not really too worried about. But I do have a question. I have just off of a friend referring me to buy some altcoins back in the day. I've been following some other people and they're like, altcoins are trash. So I converted everything to BTC except my XRP, which got totally annihilated in the fall of XRP. And so I kind of don't know what to do with that. And I heard you guys talking about hard wallets, and Casa Keys is one of the things that I've been looking to, just because I do trade larger volumes and I don't know. And I figured I'd go to you guys to handle, my daily investments into the Bitcoin. I'd rather have it on Swan than Coinbase just because of the fees. And so with the XRP, it's not like I have a large chunk there, and I kind of just threw it in thinking okay, if I lose it, I lose it, so be it. But I don't know if there's any hope in trying to move that or what I should do with that. That's one question. And then my second question is, I have a lot of friends who use Coinbase. And when I mean a lot of friends, and people who use it heavily. And I really do like Swan Bitcoin. I've read through your guys' book. I've read through your website. I've read through the FAQs. And you guys actually have on your FAQs the way you position the questions is kind of like the everyday person asking the question and then you guys answering it. So I really appreciate that. And so I want to be able to bring more people to the platform that I know, just because I feel like it's better for them, right? And the fees are lower and all that jazz, and they're kind of like daily investors as well. So my first question is, one, you probably can answer this with a swift, answer, but what should I do with my XRP? And then two, I love the fee setup with Swan, but I don't know if there's anything else that you guys would position or, highlight as, hey, this is Swan and you should move over here. I want to be able to convince more people, because with Coinbase, it's everyone knows it. they know the blue icon, let alone Coinbase Pro. So now that I've figured out that Swan is a better position for me to be in as an investor, and these other people have cash flow very similar to myself, I want to be able to, you know, convince people that Swan is a better option. But aside from the fees, I mean, obviously that being a huge part, what is something else that you guys would probably say is like the peak of like what sets you apart?
Sure, no worries. Regarding the XRP, I mean, I'll speak from experience. I had some very heavy altcoin bags back in the day before I, you know, saw the light and went Bitcoin only. And, you know, I hemmed and I hawed and I was like, what should I do? Should I wait for them to go up? Blah, 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 blah. I ended up just saying, screw it. And I sold it and I put it into Bitcoin. And I've never been happy. I've never been happier. And then the one thing I'll say is if you factor in that, you know, XRP is dealing with some very, very serious, you know, legal issues right now. And, you know, who knows, you know, it's altcoins. They might pump, they might not. But my personal advice is think about, you know, just getting rid of it.
Right. Move it to a hard wallet essentially. And then just.
Oh no. I mean, I would say just sell it on Coinbase and then sell it for like.
They have it restricted.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. Help me.
That's interesting. I wish I could. Maybe there are some exchanges out there that are still trading it, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay.
No, you're good. Regarding Swan, I mean, look, their fees first and foremost. You know, that's the easy thing. Like, you know, lower fees means you'll end up with more Bitcoin in the long run. Kind of the ease of buying automatically is another selling point, and even withdrawing automatically if that's something that they're interested in. You know, I also think the culture, you know, like sort of the education we provide and, you know, the people who are working here, that kind of thing, compared to Coinbase. Like, I don't like to you know, to shit on competitors, but Coinbase I'll make an exception for because frankly I can't stand them. I have many friends now who have been stuck in their support queue for literally a month, unable to touch their funds because their accounts have been frozen. You know, at the end of the day, I want to invest in, you know, with a company that, you know, that I vibe with, and that's Swan. That's why I'm working there also. Coinbase has, you know, dealt with some, you know, horrible diversity issues. There's a whole article on why they're racist and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's up to you. You know, I see them kind of as the Facebook of the space, and I don't mean that in a good way.
No, I totally agree with you because I will not lie. When I was reading through the FAQs, I was like, these people mean well. And I don't know much about you guys, but it says something for me to, one, be attracted to your guys' energy between Brandon, Brady, and Corey, and Brecky, you too. From room to room. I kind of like really attract to your guys' energy. If you're speaking in a room, I want to hear. And that says a lot. And I always wonder, like, will these guys ever get like Robin Hood? You know what I mean? And like restrict people, but I don't see that. And so I think to that point, yeah, I just wanted to hear that, honestly.
I mean, that's the other thing, like question us, you know, like that's what we want. Like we want people to question us, and we have automatic withdrawals because we want people to take their coins off the exchange. So, you know, hold us accountable.
Perfect. All right. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're the best, Naomi.
You guys are the best.
All right. Thank you. I was trying to come up with something witty to say, and I came up with nothing, so we'll just end there.
Oh, I forgot. The one thing that sets me apart, I have to say that. I can lick my elbow.
What?
I literally have been thinking about that since Valerie said it. I don't know if anyone else here who's listening can lick their elbow. Try it right now. Can you do it? I don't know, but I can. Okay, I'm done.
No one can lick their elbows. That's crazy. You're crazy.
I can.
That actually reminds me. I'm going to tell a little story because I'm one of the hosts, and I feel like telling a story.
Do it.
So, does anyone know? This is a rhetorical question. Don't answer it. The difference between heaven and hell, and I'll tell you. So, in hell. Hell is a table that stretches to infinity on both sides. Sitting across from you and sitting next to you are all the people you love and care about. And sitting on that table is a bountiful feast of the most delicious food you've ever seen, and you are hungry. Your stomach is rumbling, right? But then you look down. And you have no elbows. Nobody has any elbows. So you're sitting there and you can't take the food from the table and you can't bring it to your mouth and you're stuck there with all that delicious food. That is hell. Now, do you know what heaven is? Heaven is the same exact table, except everyone realizes that you can feed the person across from you. But bam.
Oh, wow. That was great.
Anyway.
Oh, my God. See, I'm with Swan Bitcoin for life now.
Why are you with Swan? Well, there's this story about elbows, and
That's it. I'm good.
But anyway, moving on. Thank you, Naomi. We will come back anytime. And note, everyone, this is meant to be a Bitcoin for beginners room, not a Swan Bitcoin room. But we are happy to answer your Swan questions. So, all right, Naomi, we're sending you back, and we will bring someone else back up. Moving to the audience. Another hand raise. All right, who do we got? Joshua Belinko. Welcome. Tell us about yourself and ask us a question.
Hey, thanks for having me up. And I certainly cannot lick my elbow. So
that's interesting. That's fine.
No, something interesting. Okay, so I traveled to the South Pacific to an island called Rarotonga and got asked to be in a commercial for Budget Rent-A-Car. They rent the mopeds down there actually, and became a local celebrity. I was put on local TV, and there was, and there's not much. If you've ever been to the Cook Islands, there's not much on local TV. So pretty cool opportunity to be somewhat of a celebrity, although it was a bit of a joke type of commercial. Out there in Rarotonga.
That's pretty awesome. I don't know when I'll get out there, but I've been trying to make it. I really want to go to the South Pacific, and there's another island that the nerdy Bitcoiner in me wants to go to. It's called Yap Island. And if anyone's read the Bitcoin Standard, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there are these ancient stones there that used to serve as money that were proven to be terrible money. Anyway, that's my nerdy little story. Josh.
Bring back some rhinestones with you.
Exactly.
I have read the Bitcoin Standard, so yeah.
There you go. Would recommend it to everyone who is here in this room. Go read the Bitcoin Standard. All right, Joshua, what do you got for us?
All right, so I wanted to ask you about using your Bitcoin to earn interest, and kind of the crossplay with taking self-custody of your Bitcoin. So, I know there's different organizations out there where you can give them your Bitcoin, they'll lend them out, you can earn interest on it. What are your thoughts on that process? And I know I was looking at BlockFi as one example. If you do that, I guess you're giving up your right to self-custody your coins. And, so I wanted to get the panel talking a little bit about the risks and benefits associated with it.
Sure thing. Yeah. The thing is, it is hard to assess those risks. Personally, I did use BlockFi a long time ago, but I don't anymore after I kind of got to learn more about them. I personally think that the reward is not commensurate with the risk. Like it should be somewhere in the range of like 12 to 15% maybe, because they're lending that Bitcoin out to to traders and things like that. And I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. It's kind of a hard decision to make. To me, I'd rather, hold on to the majority of my Bitcoin, or, if I were to even consider something like this, the rates would just have to be much higher. I'm not sure if anybody else wants to chime in on this, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely less risky than it was. I think BlockFi is far more capitalized as a company than they were. And I don't want to speak, to what the risk actually is, because I just don't know. To me, Bitcoin is, it's potentially the greatest risk-adjusted return we have, so why risk it? Better to go out and, try to work harder at your job or whatever, it is you do, and try to, stack more Bitcoin. I mean, I get the urge because it sounds appealing, but I don't know. That's the best I can do right now.
So in terms of, putting your Bitcoin to work for you, the best way to do that essentially is to, have custody of your own keys and just let it go up, like let the number go up over time rather than, are there any, like aside from something like a BlockFi earning interest, are there any other ways to earn more? Is it simply just set it, forget it, come back, and it's worth quite a bit more?
I mean, that's the tried and true method. There are some other ways. A company like Unchained Capital, for instance, they offer fiat loans against your Bitcoin. So you can, you basically do an over collateralized loan with them, deposit Bitcoin, get back dollars, and then you can choose to do what you want with those dollars. There's risk there too. If Bitcoin, if it goes against you, and like, let's say you use that money to buy more Bitcoin because you realize you can service that loan. If Bitcoin goes the opposite direction, then you're servicing a loan that just doesn't really make sense anymore. So there's risk there. There's a company called Atomic Finance that is working on a decentralized version, basically a way to put your Bitcoin to work, but it's not quite there yet. I think they'll be in beta in the next month or two, maybe. But at the end of the day, if you're getting compensated, there's risk, and it's kind of up to the individual to decide what's worth it. And, maybe it's worth it to put a small amount with a company like BlockFi for you. But, to me, I don't find that worth it.
Okay, cool. That's all I have for you. Appreciate feedback.
No worries. Thank you, Joshua.
Right on.
All right. We're going to move you down to the audience and see what other questions we've got. Who's been here? I don't know who's been here. Luna, welcome to the stage. Share something interesting about yourself if you feel like it, and ask us a question about Bitcoin. Oh, do we have Luna? Is she joining us? Maybe not. All right, Luna, if you are away, we're going to bring up James, and you can get your question after if you come back to us. James, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
We're, Monday night talking about Bitcoin. No complaints.
Excellent. Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. Where are you at?
Afternoon here in Australia.
Cheers.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in and I wanted to give some feedback to Naomi, who asked a question a little while back there about where to get rid of her XRP.
Oh, sure.
She can still offload that shitcoin on Kraken. They'll take it.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's I think they're probably one of the only US exchanges left that are taking XRP.
Cheers. I appreciate you sharing that info. Probably
no worries,
won't be
man.
going
I
on
wanted
for
to
too
get
long.
stuck with it.
Yeah, no worries. You did a good deed tonight. All right, man. Take it easy. All right. Matthew Harris, do you have a question for us? Anything interesting to share? Welcome to Bitcoin for beginners or for experts. How you doing tonight? Oh, Matthew, you are extraordinarily low. I can't hear what you're saying. If you could.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, so something interesting about me. Let's see. I mistakenly went to a movie with my parents on acid with two of my friends when I was 14 years old.
Oh, no.
The movie was Pelican Brief.
Oh, yeah. That's a rough one. That reminds me of the time my brother was very young, and he loved Adam Sandler. It was his favorite comedian. Loved his movies, and my mom decided to throw him a birthday party at the movie theater, and brought all the kids to see the new Adam Sandler movie. But he didn't know that it was the one serious Adam Sandler movie that he ever did. All the kids were devastated.
Right. I think he's done a couple serious ones now.
Now, yeah. This is a while ago.
Sure. Okay, so I had a couple questions, but most of them were answered. I'm several months into the Bitcoin experience, learning as I go, kind of realizing more and more how little I know. And so I purchased some Bitcoin on Coinbase and also Coinbase Pro. And, listening to you guys here, I'm interested in Swan Bitcoin a little bit. And so my first question was, what are the benefits of Swan? And those were answered by one of the previous guests.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess my only other question would be, at the moment, how do you guys make your money? Is it just off the fees, or are there other sources of income for Swan?
Sure thing. Yeah. No, all of our income is completely on fees, and we don't have any hidden fees or anything like that. So pretty transparent with how we make our money.
Awesome. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. I think that's it for now. Appreciate it.
For sure, man. Come back anytime. All right.
Have a good evening.
Take it easy, man. Got a few more. Who was here before? Luna, we'll give you one more try. Luna, are you here this time? Oh, Luna. Do you have a question for us? Looks like not. All right, Luna. Maybe next time. All right. How do I say your name? Gizael? Gizael. Tell me I got it right. Oh,
can you hear me, guys?
I did. Luna, if you could mute yourself, we'll get to you after Gizael.
I'm trying. I'm brand new.
No worries. I'll mute you, and then I'll unmute you.
Awesome.
Gizael, what do you got for us? Something interesting and
How's it going, guys?
good, thanks.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I just joined Clubhouse. This is my first meeting here, and I'm really enjoying the conversation. So a little bit about me. I'm from Venezuela. I'm currently living in the States right now. I just moved out trying to survive and make my way. In a country like Venezuela, sad in one part, but like super helpful to understand inflation and a good asset to save your money over time. So I will have to put that first. And I just joined the crypto world like in 100% of my time. I'm very passionate about it, but I started trading a little bit in 2017. I just earned and then lost a lot of money, but I always keep my BTC portion, so I hold it all these years, and now I'm kind of recovering from everything. And but I'm not too technical. I'm understand a little bit about it, and I'm currently trying to learn more. So my question will be right now is I just installed the Bitcoin Core server on my computer, and I'm kind of contributing to the network and everything. But I would like to continue doing this path and learn a little bit more. So what you guys think will be the next step for me? Because I'm kind of want to be more active on it, but I'm not like too technical or like that. What will you think will be my next step?
No worries, man. I mean, it kind of depends what you're interested in, right? If you're running Core, Gizael is talking about Bitcoin Core, which is one of the more popular implementations of the Bitcoin software. There are a couple of implementations of the Bitcoin software that all are compatible with each other. So you're running your own node, which is great. If you are self-custodying your Bitcoin and pairing it with your node, that's even better. But in terms of like next steps, it kind of depends what you want to contribute to Bitcoin or what you want to learn about. There's a whole rabbit hole of information regarding Austrian economics that you could go down. There's tons of literature out there on the more philosophical side of Bitcoin, which is incredibly interesting. So it kind of depends. Also, I would just say if you're interested in some Spanish language resources, I can definitely put you in touch with some people. I know some great. I actually know some Venezuelan Bitcoiners. They're still in Venezuela that run meetup groups, and they're awesome people and can definitely point you in some good Spanish language directions. But if not, I'm
currently right now. I will say that I want to learn more about the mempool transactions, fees, and everything, because that's a little bit confusing, and I want to have a better understanding of
Sure.
because
Have you read
I
Inventing?
just started on it and get a little. Yeah.
I was going to say, have you read Inventing
Say that
Bitcoin
again,
yet? Have you read Inventing Bitcoin yet?
No, I haven't.
So if you check out my profile, there's a link and you can get the free book there. If you want it in Spanish though, send me a message on Twitter and I'll be able to send it to you. We're going to be giving away the book in Spanish as well. We just don't have the website set up yet. But that book is absolutely fantastic for learning about the technical side of Bitcoin, but you don't have to be a coder, to get it. It explains it very, very easily. And definitely this is literally the book that you're looking for. So shoot me a message and I'll be happy to share it.
Okay, will do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Luna, welcome. Tell us something interesting about yourself and let us know your Bitcoin question. I will try to answer it. Oh, wait, I have to unmute you. I'm so sorry. How do I do that? Oh, no, it won't let me. This is so confusing.
Oh, wait, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, now we can hear you. Perfect.
Man, this is weird. Okay.
No worries.
So I have a little, is this how you say it? FOMO, fear of missing out. So I tend to, when I have that, I kind of invest probably bigger than I should. But probably the interesting thing about me is I'm a bit eclectic and I'm a intuitive and more like a medical intuitive and stuff. But I have a mentor, and 4 years ago, she told me, you got to buy Bitcoin. And so I went all out and, of course, did everything wrong, made money, left it on an exchange. I didn't even I thought I was in a wallet and my money was in the wallet. But anyway, I had a lot stolen. And I just kind of left everything sitting there, kind of like a bad date. Like, oh God, the rest that I have, I left it in Coinbase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't even tried to get back into it. But some of my questions have already been answered. So I wanted to dial down and say, I don't want to get into FOMO where I just start, investing more probably than I should. But it just seems like a really good time to buy right now with it. I haven't been looking at it for a while, but that it's gone down to 30-ish seems like a really good price to buy in. And I don't know if you guys have opinions on that, or if you could, especially in terms of the market right now, send me to a resource, something, maybe a YouTuber or someone that I could listen to about this sort of thing. Because I feel like the moment's right here.
Luna, what I'll say is that nobody knows anything. No YouTubers, nobody. There's even people who do, technical analysis and, they draw these charts, even the best people. And I know a few people who've been doing that for, 30 plus years, they're professional traders. Even they can say that they can't predict anything and that the best they can do is work in probabilities, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a hard question. Frankly, I'm actually dealing with this with my dad as well, because, he recently got in and, he's asked me, is this now a good time to buy? I'm like, maybe, but my thoughts and what I tell people, and, this is my conviction, what I believe, in the long run, Bitcoin, I believe Bitcoin is going up. I think personally that buying Bitcoin under 100,000, under $1 million is cheap. When the world finally wakes up, they're going to see, you're going to see Bitcoin prices that are astronomical and people aren't going to be able to believe it. That's what I think. But how long does that take? I don't know, which is why, I, like you, I used to FOMO and I've done my fair share and I'm not proud of it. And now I don't. What I do is I use the product that we have at Swan. I dollar cost average every day automatically. I buy a certain amount, and even certain things like, I quit nicotine recently, and the money I'm saving on that I put into Bitcoin every day, and I try to rewire my brain to think about this in a healthier way. And that doesn't mean that sometimes I don't, buy a dip, that kind of thing. But, so to give you some perspective, I bought my first 2 Bitcoins in 2013. and I bought them at the top when Bitcoin was around, let's say, it was like $1,000, $1,200, something like that. And we crashed down to $300, and I held on, and I later lost some of that Bitcoin in trading altcoins and things like that. But, what that taught me is that, what may seem like a bottom or a top, eventually, it won't even matter, because when you zoom out and you look at and you think long term, everything changes. So is now a good time to buy? I don't know. There's a great meme out there that goes something like, the best time to buy Bitcoin was 10 years ago. The second best time to buy is now. And really, it depends on your mindset. If you're thinking long term, it doesn't really matter. If you're thinking short term and you're looking to take profits, quote unquote profits in dollars, that's entirely different. So,
well, I have just two quick things to add. One would be that just my friend who's a mentor, and she has a lot of friends in Asia and around the world, and she just kept talking about like how big it is over there and how we just don't even have a sense of how big it is over here. If we really understood that, it would be a lot easier to get into the market. And then in the esoteric thing she said to me about 6 weeks ago was, wait till it dips down to 30 and get it, because it's going to keep going up, like pretty high after that. And she's usually right about things like that. So that's my little tip of the day.
You know what? She might be right, at a more, concrete data level, things are definitely very different than they were back in 2017 and even, back in 2013. We have big companies putting significant amounts of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. There's a company called MicroStrategy that converted their entire corporate treasury to Bitcoin, and they're holding a conference starting tomorrow, actually, where the whole idea is to talk about the benefits of Bitcoin as a corporate treasury asset. So who knows? The adoption that we all think is that we're seeing happen could ramp up. You look at the money printing that's going on, that our government's doing. To me, it seems inevitable. But if I've learned anything from being in Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin isn't always rational. So that's why I think long term.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luna. I appreciate it. All right, folks, we have a few more questions. I'm going to try to get to the people who were here first, but I believe we're going to try to close this room down in probably 15 or so minutes. So if we don't get to you, I apologize. Let's see who was here earlier. I think Matt, I think, was here. Let's see if he's here right now. Matt, how are you doing tonight? Welcome.
How you doing, fellas and ladies? This is a good call. I appreciate these kind of Clubhouse has just been awesome, and I think at this point for me, I've been in Bitcoin for a little over 3 years now, and initially started off with just acquiring Bitcoin, right, dollar cost averaging, and then graduating to making sure security and making sure how to use a hardware wallet, and making sure that part's wrapped up. And I'm kind of getting into the point where running a node seems to be the next step. And I know a couple questions ago, one of the gentlemen mentioned Bitcoin Core, and I guess my question is kind of getting into that and graduating to the next step is, I'm not a hugely technical person, but I wanted to see what your guys' opinion would be to kind of take that next step and run your own node. And, what I know there's plenty of information. You guys are great with, the educational pieces you have on Swan. I use you folks. So I guess my question would be, where would you point somebody that's kind of looking to take that next step, run a node, and to take it to the next level there?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's super exciting that you want to do that. Bitcoin Core is actually, it's interesting because not a lot of people talk about Bitcoin Core when they're talking about nodes. It's actually a great way to run your own node, especially if you have a desktop computer sitting around, or you've got the space for it. The only problem with it, and it's not a problem, is that it doesn't have kind of all the bells and whistles of some of the other, more user-friendly node softwares that are out there. What I would recommend actually is there's a YouTube channel called BTC Sessions that you may or may not know. He has some fantastic walkthroughs of setting up various types of nodes. And then for anyone listening, it's BTC Sessions. You can search that on Google, on YouTube, and you'll find him. He has tutorials for everything from hardware wallets to, to running your full nodes. And two of the options I would recommend, one is MyNode BTC. I use that for one of the nodes I'm running. And then there's another one that's relatively new that's getting rave reviews. It's called Umbrel. It's UMBREL. And I believe that BTC Sessions has tutorials for both of those, so walkthroughs to use them. And one of the reasons why I might urge you to do that versus doing a regular node with Core is because you can then start to play around with the Lightning Network. And Desiree is here. Maybe Des can tell us a little bit about the Lightning Network and why someone might be interested.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the next step for you. And I definitely echo Brecky's recommendation on checking out Umbrel. They are a cloud-hosted. You can actually host your node through the cloud, and I believe you can do that with Get Voltage too. I think that's the website, Get Voltage. If not, just type in Voltage Bitcoin node. They're cloud hosted as well. Two awesome solutions that both have rave reviews, so check those out. But yeah, the Lightning Network is kind of the next step. And maybe it should have been the first because Lightning basically makes it faster, cheaper, and easier to use Bitcoin. So a lot of times I refer to it as Bitcoin's UX because at some point, we're never going to refer to the Lightning Network as separate to Bitcoin. But anyways, the Lightning Network sits on top of the Bitcoin blockchain as a second layer. And it basically, instead of having to confirm every one of your transactions on the blockchain, if you're just sending 30 cents, today I sent someone $2.21 for winning in a video game competition, an esports competition this weekend, and it just happens instantaneously. So if you think of the Bitcoin blockchain as your bank account, you can think of, or your savings account, you can think of the Lightning Network more as your credit card, or your debit card, where you can just make super cheap, fast payments. That makes it just extremely easy, so you can pay people instantaneously instead of waiting that 10-minute block time and paying fees whenever fees go up, which they have been going up. So definitely encourage you to check that out. If you are interested in getting your hands dirty, we do have a lot of really great resources for devs at docs.lightning.engineering. If you're interested, feel free to shoot me in a DM on Twitter for folks interested in Lightning. I'm more than happy to send you more resources.
Back in my day, we used to have the Lightning Network and the Bitcoin Network. Yeah, okay, Grandma, let's get you to bed.
Saying, Brecky.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the info. And I think it's one of those things, Bitcoin Sessions, that the gentleman with the blonde streak in his hair, I think I just started following him, and I started following Umbrel on Twitter, so I kind of started going down that rabbit hole today. Glad to know I'm kind of getting pointed in the right direction. And then with Lightning, I kind of going down that rabbit hole today too, and looking at Strike and what Jack Mallers is doing. What a ball!
Yes, love to hear it. Check out the Fold card.
I'm like 150,000 away from getting there, so I'm waiting in line on that. So, but yeah, I really appreciate everybody's time, and that's all great information. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Matt. Real quick to touch on what Desiree said. If anyone's really new to Bitcoin and they don't know about Fold or Lolly, they're two amazing options. I use them pretty much all the time, but they're basically an easy way to earn Bitcoin back on some of your online purchases. One is just foldapp.com, and the other one I believe is lolly.com, LOLLI. But you can earn Bitcoin for basically spending money that you were already going to spend. So it's a really really cool thing to check
I
out.
earned Bitcoin. I bought a toilet for my home renovations, and I earned Bitcoin, which I think is like a totally epic win.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you're crafty, like if you're a coupon cutter, you know, there are some you can be really crafty in terms of getting higher rewards back. So it's definitely worth checking out. All right, thank you, Matt. I think we'll take a few more questions before we call it a night. Let's see who we've got. And if you're just joining us, please don't raise your hand as I'm trying to get to the people who have been here. Roz Nash, that is a powerful, fun name to say. How are you doing, Roz? I like people with names like myself that only have one syllable in the end. Roz, are you with us? Yes, you're with us. We heard you say that, Roz. Don't be embarrassed.
Sorry, I'm like looking for am I muted? Am I not? I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Hi guys, I'm Roz. Yes, I guess maybe the most interesting thing about me is that I'm a musician and have performed in tens of countries around the world. So that's why my name is Roz Nash. But it was given to me at birth.
Wait, hold up. What kind of music? What do you play? Are you have an instrument? Are you a singer? What's your shtick?
Well, I'm a singer and a guitarist, and I've played with lots of different bands and fronted lots of bands. And the one that I traveled the world with was a black metal band.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Real quick before your question, though, I just wanted to explain why I'm obsessed tonight with asking everyone to tell something weird or interesting about themselves. And part of it is because I wanted to highlight that Bitcoiners are everywhere, and we are all interesting, and Bitcoiners are diverse, and it's a global movement, and you're part of it, and it's exciting, and I'm excited. And Roz, what's your question?
Yes, I'm excited and a proud Bitcoiner. I'm newish. I only recently bought Bitcoin a couple months ago. And I bought it on Cash App because I saw it and was like, wow, you can buy it on Cash App. And
We
so
like
I
Cash
did.
App. That's all right. Don't worry.
Okay, good. So I guess that's kind of my question. Like, do I just keep it there, or what's my next step? I'm a total newbie, and I'm hearing all these things about owning your own keys and a private key versus a public key and a vault and a wallet, and I'm just wondering what I should be doing.
Sure, no worries. I mean, there's definitely a lot to take in when it comes to Bitcoin. If you haven't read that book that we're giving away, I think that's a great place to start.
I did sign up for that, so I'm excited to read it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that's a really great place to learn about all the terminology and kind of wrap your head around that. When it comes to wallets, some Bitcoiners are like, you must control your own keys, and I'm personally a bit more relaxed when it comes to that. To me, it's more like you should control your own keys when you're ready, and if you are more responsible than letting someone else do it. I think letting someone else hold your own keys is not best practices. Like part of the Bitcoin ethos is to get away from these so-called trusted third parties. But for some people, if you can't even keep track of your regular paper wallet that you keep your dollars in, then you're not yet ready to take care of your Bitcoin keys. But I think everyone can get there. It's a mind switch. It's rewiring your brain to think about these things in a slightly different way, and it just takes time, and you can practice. So I would urge you to read that book. Check out the page we have on our site. It's just swanbitcoin.com/wallets. It'll really walk you through self-custody and wallets and how they work and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I have a wallet already for another currency that I was messing with like a year ago. And so actually I decided to just check it to see if I could open up a wallet for Bitcoin, and it said I could. So I did, just to do it. But because I'm just not sure I want to keep everything in Cash App. And then I just heard about you all, Swan, tonight. So I went onto your site to enroll, because it sounds like maybe where I should be keeping my Bitcoin. So, so I'm going to look into that.
So just one thing is we don't actually allow deposits of Bitcoin just yet.
Okay.
That might be on a roadmap. I'm not sure. Our part of our whole shtick is we want to, encourage people to do self-custody when they're ready. But, that being said,
But I could buy Bitcoin. Is
Yep.
that the idea? Okay.
Yep, we'd love to have you. So if you're interested.
Okay, cool. No, I want to buy more. So yeah, that would be great.
And then I don't know. I mean, there's a whole, we call it the rabbit hole for a reason. There's a lot going on in Bitcoin, and a lot of people, we all become obsessed with it in some form or another. So there's people writing about it and doing podcasts and YouTube shows and all this stuff. And so, if that's your thing, like, go down the rabbit hole. There's some great like philosophical pieces out there that get super heady when it comes to Bitcoin. So, I mean, pursue your interests, I guess. I don't know if I can help any other way, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Roz. All right. It's 9 o'clock. All right, let's do one more, maybe two. Jesse, welcome to the stage. How are you doing tonight? If you could keep it slightly brief, that way maybe we can do one or two more.
Doing well. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, great. So, interesting thing about me, I wrote a book about Tim Tebow that was published about 9 years ago when he was hot. And
fair.
It got published, and he immediately got sat on the bench, so it didn't sell that well. But
yeah.
So my question is kind of piggybacking off the last question. So I just bought Bitcoin for the first time Friday. I bought it off PayPal. Is that kind of the same thing as the Cash App? Is that a good starter or?
So PayPal's interesting in that, I don't know if you were here earlier when we were talking about Robinhood, but as of now, PayPal is a closed system, so they won't let you withdraw that Bitcoin. So self-custody at the moment is not possible. Now, I've read and they've said that, they might open it up at some point, but I think Robinhood said that at some point as well. So I wouldn't recommend people buy there because of that reason. If you're just looking to, eventually sell it into dollars, which is another thing I wouldn't recommend, then it's probably fine. But if you're looking to kind of go down this rabbit hole and learn about self-custody and do all these things that we're talking about, I would definitely look into an exchange, like an on-ramp that allows you to withdraw.
On-ramp. Okay, that makes sense.
So
Yep.
something like Swan, something like Cash App, something like River. Yeah.
Great. That's pretty much all I had. Appreciate it.
Cool, man. Much appreciated. All right, let's do one more. Oh, we got two more, I think. All right. Alora, welcome. What can we answer for you today, if you're still with us? You're with us. Wonderful.
This thing working?
It's working.
This sounds very suspicious to me. I've been studying Bitcoin for like 6 months.
Okay.
I hadn't seen or heard of Swan Bitcoin.
Okay. Do you have a question for us?
Well, if you're doing a thing called Bitcoin for Beginners, and every person that's hosting all works for the same company, sounds like sales.
I mean, look, fair enough. We were trying to get some other mods on tonight. It just didn't really work out. We try to be open in our answers, and a lot of people, because they follow us, hop into this room and ask us questions about Swan, where that wasn't really the intention. So we're here to answer questions about Bitcoin.
Because it sounds, like the only way to use your platform is to give you a credit card only and not be able to start with the Bitcoin. So
I'm not really sure what you're talking about. I mean, we only work with bank accounts, not credit cards. We don't allow credit.
Well, yes, bank account. Yeah.
And we're not a trading platform. We don't allow trading. We're trying to be the easiest way for people to acquire Bitcoin, and we don't really do marketing. We just do education. So that's kind of our shtick.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like the correct way to store Bitcoin is going through your service.
To store Bitcoin?
Well, to store it in your own hands. It sounds like, I don't know. I could be wrong. But I've been studying for 6 months, and it doesn't sound like the right way. At least for beginners.
I mean, look, you're welcome to have your opinion, but we don't encourage everyone to withdraw their Bitcoin until they're ready. That's kind of our thing. We focus on education, and that's just what we do at Swan. We're all Bitcoiners. We all believe in it.
I think the best way is to do your education through multiple sources. So out of all the education I've done, I haven't heard anybody talk about it the way you guys have. So, but I guess anybody else listening, I suggest researching it on your own first.
I mean,
different portals.
Laura, look, we have a phrase in Bitcoin, which I hope you've come across, and that's, to do your own research. At Swan, we try to boost as many educational voices in the space as we can. We're not telling anyone to, go on our website only and only listen to us and only look at what we're doing. We encourage everyone to go out and do as much research as they can. So, that's the part of the ethos of Bitcoin, and that's what we try to promote.
Yeah, and as someone who does not work at Swan Bitcoin, and I work at a company that is very much promotes total, always be in total custody of your funds, which I also promote. Myself, like I have Bitcoin in several different places. I for several different reasons. Like I keep the majority of my Bitcoin in cold storage, and keep that stored in a way that's like probably the way that you're referring to. But for ease of access, I keep Bitcoin. I've kept like on River Financial. I have, I also have like interest in trying out literally every single wallet and every single platform. So I pretty much have all of them. But when I got started, like when I first bought Bitcoin, like I was like writing shit down on a piece of paper, and it was very like frightening. And I was trying to custody my Bitcoin up front, and I wish there had been something like a Cash App. And I think what the folks here at Swan Bitcoin are doing is they're trying to intro like this to the masses, not just like people who are interested in like self-sovereignty and holding your own coins. Like my dad uses Cash App. Like I don't think he is ever going to get to the point where he's comfortable of ever custodying his own Bitcoin, and that's fine. I do personally view it as a spectrum, and I think that people can progress through the spectrum from custodianship all the way to non-custodial. And I think like that journey is really important. And like that's my take on it. And Swan Bitcoin sits on one part of that spectrum, and I think that they are genuinely trying to like educate people and are doing a good job about it. But at the end of the day, they know their platform better than most. But I think it's all about like start like meeting people where they're at and onboarding them from there.
I don't know. It still seems like anybody here that's listening could just test it themselves on any other platform with $100.
Yeah,
and
they like it, understand
and they're more than welcome to. That's the whole point of this.
I'm curious what your preference is. Like since you've been looking into it, I'm curious like what's been the easiest, or like what you would recommend to folks.
Well, Coinbase is the easiest, but yeah, that seems the simplest and easiest way. I've used it for, 4 years or something.
I mean, that's on you. Agree to disagree. I have plenty of friends who've been stuck in
I'm using others now, but that's the easiest starting point is them. Any other starting point would be too difficult.
That's your opinion, man. I mean,
that's the history. So far, I haven't heard a bad thing about Coinbase. My friend's been storing with them. Well, not storing, buying from there since 2012.
I mean, okay, that's fine. I've heard.
And withdrawals the other day.
Yeah, there are plenty of
I'm sure they have withdrawals because they're still centralized. So if too many people try and buy and sell at the same time, it messes them up. But after them, you can go through a decentralized network.
Okay. All right. Well, Laura, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us, but we're gonna.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to one more last question.
Cool.
All right, Art, you've been waiting for a while. 1 second. Welcome to the stage. My stupid app. Welcome to the stage. What do you got for us? A question about Bitcoin. We're here to help.
Hey guys, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate you and the Swan crew too. I actually listen to you guys falling asleep all the time with your live channel on YouTube there, so that is awesome.
Thanks.
But what I was gonna ask was, I think more directed to Desiree there, and more with the Lightning Network itself. So I was one of my friends works at a company here in Canada. It's called Interlapse. And essentially what they do, they just are in the middle of acquiring a company called Liquid, and it's the same guy that started the Big. So almost everything that I hate about Bitcoin, with how it's like so trackable in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, what Liquid is trying to do is, I guess, build the infrastructure to allow these payment processing companies, like each company, to put Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. And I guess my question is, on more of a commercial sense, how would a company like that actually profit when my belief is that most of the development in the space is actually done open source?
So Des, it looks like she left before you asked your question, unfortunately. So I don't know that I can answer that question, unfortunately. There is going to be a developer talk tomorrow. So if you follow Des or myself, you'll get a notification of this. I believe it's at, I think, around 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow Pacific time. It's going to be a lightning-focused developer talk. So that might be a much better place to get that question answered.
There we go. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry about that, Art.
Oh, it's all good.
All right, we've got one more, and I would feel bad not doing one more. So last question, 1031. 1 second, let me move you up. What do you got for us tonight? Welcome to the show.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thanks for being patient. You have a Bitcoin question for us.
My question is, who on the Swan team is the most heady or the most cosmic?
Ooh.
Is it Gigi? Is it Brandon?
That's really hard.
Someone else?
It's probably a tie between Gigi and Brandon. You know, Brandon's got the more psychedelic side of things going for him, and then Gigi is like a religious philosopher. But
or is it Brady?
Brady gets cosmic too, man. That's hard. I don't know. We're a very cosmic team. Who do you think it is?
Who do you think?
I was thinking Brandon. I heard him on one of the podcasts give some sort of apex predator werewolf, or sorry, it was an apex predator wolf analogy. I thought that was just pretty incredible.
I like that. Yeah, we should definitely plan a room on Clubhouse that's just like a cosmic Bitcoin night for sure. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's a hard one. Well, I'll ask the team on our Slack and see what they say. Maybe.
Nice. Well, good job. Really enjoyed listening in.
Appreciate it, man. If there's no other questions, do we have one more? All right, Michael, you are the last one. Nobody else raise your hands. Don't do it. Thanks, 1031. We'll see you in a bit. All right, Michael, welcome to the stage. What do you got for us? You're the last question of the night.
All right, so I've been in the crypto space for about a year now. And during this time, like, I've done some research and spoken to like a couple of people about this matter. You see like a shift in Bitcoin dominance downwards and a shift upwards in altcoins, like coming recently.
Is there a question there? Are you asking if I'm seeing that, or what was the question?
Is that like a possibility that that's happening?
I mean, look, it depends how you measure dominance. You know, if you're talking about like proof of work coins, you know, I don't personally see it. Who knows? Like, that's not really a metric that I use to, you know, determine the success of Bitcoin. To me, I look at things like, you know, what are the institutions buying? What are people actually using? You know, what's actually having a positive impact on society? And to me, it's pretty clear the only answer to that is Bitcoin. You know, alts they come and go from what I've seen in my years in the space. You know, there is a DeFi craze going on that I think is not going to end well for the majority of, you know, projects out there. Alts make a lot of trade-offs with Bitcoin. You know, there's a reason why there are so many maximalists, people who are Bitcoin only. This is a much longer, deeper conversation than we have time for, but, you know, I would just say, you know, look into Bitcoin, or, you know, come to your own conclusions there. But, you know, I don't think alts have staying power. I think they make too many trade-offs, and I don't think any of them can actually compete with Bitcoin in the long term.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your input.
Yep.
I appreciate the time for you letting me on here at the last minute of this. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you, Michael. Thank you to everybody in the room for all the questions. We had a great time. We will be doing Bitcoin for beginners Q&As every Monday. We will also be doing rooms every single day that, you know, will vary by topic. We have an interesting one scheduled that'll be starting early in the morning tomorrow. So give Cafe Bitcoin, you know, click on the Cafe Bitcoin icon in the top left and apply if you'd like. You can get notifications for all these events. Corey, you're joining us at the last minute. Do you have any closing words for us, or you just wanted to say hi? No, Corey. All right.
Thank you, Brecky, so much for your time. That was absolutely amazing.
Thank you for joining us, Camilla. And again, thank you to everybody. One more time, if you are looking for some of those beginner Bitcoin resources, you can find them in my profile. We have a site at Swan that we set up with a bunch of them all together. It's swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. If you haven't read Inventing Bitcoin yet, grab the free copy. There's a link in my bio. If you're a Spanish speaker, reach out to me. I can get you a free copy of the Spanish version as well. We'll be setting up a site to be able to give that away to people as well. And if you have any questions about anything at all, you know, send us a DM. You know, if you wanted to, you know, look into running a node or anything, you know, we'll all do our best to answer those questions. So shoot us a message on Twitter. And then finally, there was one other thing. If you had a question or you forgot something that was, you know, an answer, you didn't write it down in time, as soon as I hit stop on this, the video should be up on our YouTube channel as well, and you can go back and re-listen to everything. So thank you all. Have a great night. Stay humble, stack sats, stay Swanish. Contribute to Cafe Bitcoin if you can. Invite more people to Clubhouse. Tell people about Bitcoin. Be that Bitcoin person for all your friends and get them involved, because this is a revolution and it's exciting. And I'm out of breath and it's time to go to sleep. Good night, everybody.
Good night.